In this video, we'll be breaking down when lovers kill each other in the most gruesome ways, a series of cases as shocking as they are disturbing. Let's get started. Starting it off with the Sonam and Raja Raghuvanshi case, India, 2025. On 23rd May 2025, 29-year-old Raja Raghuvanshi and his 25-year-old wife Sonam disappeared during their honeymoon in Meghalaya, India. They had been married for less than 2 weeks. 10 days later, Raja's decomposed body was found at the bottom of a gorge beneath Way Sodong Falls. What investigators initially treated as a possible accident or abduction turned into something far darker. Sonam was arrested on charges of orchestrating her husband's murder, allegedly hiring contract killers to carry out the crime during what should have been the happiest time of their lives together. Raja and Sonam Raghuvanshi were from Indore, a city in Madhya Pradesh in central India. They got married on 11th May 2025. Like many newlywed couples in India, they planned a honeymoon to celebrate their new life together. They chose Meghalaya, a state in northeastern India known for its stunning natural beauty. Meghalaya means abode of clouds in Sanskrit. The state is famous for its living root bridges, waterfalls, and lush green landscapes. Cherrapunji, also known as Sora, is one of the wettest places on earth. It attracts tourists from all over India and the world. Raja was 29 years old. He came from a family in Indore. His father was Ashok Raghuvanshi and his mother was Uma Raghuvanshi. He had at least one brother named Vipin. Sonam was 25 years old. She also came from Indore. Her brother was named Govind Raghuvanshi. The couple had gotten married in what was likely an arranged marriage, which is still common in India. They seemed to be starting their life together like any other young married couple. On 20th May 2025, Raja and Sonam left Indore and traveled to Meghalaya. They arrived in the area around Cherrapunji on 22nd May. They went to Malakiat village, which sits at the top of a valley near Cherrapunji. From there, they began a trek down to Nongriat village. The trek is famous but challenging. Visitors have to descend about 3,000 steps to reach the village at the bottom of the valley. The main attraction is the double-decker living root bridge, a natural bridge made from the roots of rubber trees that have been trained and shaped over generations. It is one of the most photographed spots in Meghalaya. Raja and Sonam made the trek down on 22nd May. They stayed overnight at a homestay in Nongriat village. A homestay is like a small guest house, often run by local families who open their homes to tourists. The couple spent the night there, presumably enjoying the peaceful surroundings and the famous bridge. The next morning, 23rd May, they checked out of the homestay. They began the climb back up the 3,000 steps toward Malakiat. It was the last time anyone saw them in person. Sometime on 23rd May 2025, Raja and Sonam Raghuvanshi vanished. They never arrived at their next destination. Their families back in Indore expected to hear from them, but all contact stopped. Phone records showed that Sonam made a final call to her mother around 1:43 p.m. on 23rd May. After that call, both Raja's phone and Sonam's phone were switched off. No one could reach them. The families became worried almost immediately. On 23rd May itself, the family filed a missing persons report. This was unusually fast, which suggests the family knew something was wrong right away. Maybe the couple had planned to check in at a certain time and failed to do so. Maybe there was something in that last phone call from Sonam to her mother that raised alarm. Whatever the reason, the family did not wait. They reported the couple missing the same day they disappeared. The next day, 24th May, there was a significant discovery. Raja and Sonam had rented a scooter to get around the area. Scooters and motorcycles are common ways to travel in India, especially in hilly regions where roads can be narrow and winding. On 24th May, someone found the couple's rented scooter abandoned at a roadside cafe. The cafe was on the Shillong to Sora road. Shillong is the capital city of Meghalaya, about 50 kilometers from Cherrapunji. The abandoned scooter was a bad sign. It meant the couple had not just decided to extend their trip or go somewhere without telling anyone. Something had happened. The family and local authorities immediately began search efforts. But the area around Cherrapunji is vast and difficult to navigate. There are deep valleys, thick forests, countless waterfalls, and treacherous terrain. Searching for two people in such an environment is incredibly challenging. For days, there was no sign of Raja or Sonam. Search teams combed the area. Family members traveled from Indore to Meghalaya to join the search and put pressure on authorities. The case began to attract local media attention. A young couple vanishing on their honeymoon was a story that captured public interest. But despite the efforts, there were no leads. No one had seen them. No one knew where they had gone after checking out of the homestay in Nongriat. The search continued into early June. The National Disaster Response Force, known as NDRF, was brought in to help. The NDRF is a specialized force in India that handles natural disasters and emergency rescue operations. They have equipment and training for difficult search missions. They deployed drones to survey the area from above, hoping to spot something that ground teams might miss. On 2nd June 2025, 10 days after Raja and Sonam disappeared, an NDRF drone made a grim discovery. The drone spotted a body at the base of a gorge beneath Wai Saw Dong Falls. Wai Saw Dong is another popular waterfall in the Sora area, not far from where the couple had been trekking. The gorge beneath the falls is deep and difficult to access. The body was badly decomposed. The tropical climate and moisture would have accelerated decomposition significantly. Recovery teams were sent down into the gorge. The terrain was dangerous. They had to use ropes and rappelling equipment to reach the body. When they brought it up, the condition of the remains made visual identification nearly impossible. But there was one distinguishing feature. Raja had a tattoo on his right hand. His brother Vipin was able to identify the body based on that tattoo. It was Raja. The East Khasi Hills District Police, which has jurisdiction over the Cherrapunji area, confirmed that Raja Raghuvanchi's body had been recovered. They immediately registered a murder case. The body showed signs of violence. Raja's death was not an accident. Someone had killed him. The police established a special investigation team, or SIT, to probe the case. An SIT is formed when a case is particularly serious or complex and requires dedicated resources and coordination. But Sonam was still missing. At this point, investigators did not know if she was dead, if she had been abducted, or if something else had happened. The search for Sonam continued. Her family and Raja's family both pleaded with authorities to find her. The case became even more prominent in the Indian media. A honeymoon that ended with a murdered husband and a missing wife was shocking. Police began examining the crime scene more carefully. At the site where Raja's body was found, investigators discovered several items. There was a woman's white shirt. There was a strip of a medicine blister pack, the kind that tablets come in. There was part of a mobile phone screen, broken and damaged. There was a smartwatch. These items suggested that Sonam might have been at the same location, or that there had been a struggle. A few days later, police announced they had recovered what they believed was the murder weapon. It was blood-stained, though they did not specify exactly what kind of weapon it was. A black raincoat was also found in Mokhma village, which is nearby. The raincoat had wet stains on it. Superintendent of Police Vivek CM said it was too early to tell if the stains were blood. They would need forensic tests to determine what the stains were. The search operation was incredibly difficult. The NDRF teams had to rappel down cliffs at the Wai Saw Dong viewpoint to access the gorge. The visibility was poor because of mist and clouds, which are constant in that area. The terrain was slippery and dangerous. Multiple times, teams had to suspend their descent because conditions were too hazardous. But they kept trying. They recovered more evidence, bit by bit. Police also began reviewing CCTV footage from the area. There are not many cameras in rural Meghalaya, but some shops, hotels, and main roads have surveillance. Investigators traced the couple's movements on 23rd May, trying to figure out where they went after leaving Nongriat. They interviewed local guides, shopkeepers, and anyone who might have seen the couple. Raja's family was devastated. They were also angry. Raja's brother Vipin publicly demanded that the case be handed over to the Central Bureau of Investigation, or CBI. The CBI is India's premier investigative agency, similar to the FBI in the United States. Families often request CBI involvement in high-profile cases because they do not trust local police to conduct a thorough investigation. Vipin alleged that foul play had not been adequately investigated. He said the family had many questions that were not being answered. One of the things the family pointed out was jewelry. Raja and Sonam had been wearing gold jewelry when they disappeared. In Indian culture, especially after a wedding, couples often wear significant amounts of gold jewelry, including rings, chains, and bracelets. When Raja's body was found, none of that jewelry was on him. This suggested the possibility of robbery. Maybe someone had killed Raja to steal the gold. It was a theory, but police had not confirmed anything. Sonam's family was also speaking out, but they had a different message. Sonam's brother, Govind Raghuvanshi, said he believed his sister was still alive. He thought she might be in captivity somewhere. He urged authorities not to give up hope of finding her. He called for intensified search efforts and also asked for a CBI probe. The families were united in wanting more to be done, but they seemed to have different ideas about what had happened. The case reached the highest levels of Meghalaya's government. Conrad Sangma, the chief minister of Meghalaya, expressed shock at the incident. He assured the public that the state government was fully supporting the police investigation. He promised that everything possible was being done to solve the case. This kind of statement is common when a case attracts significant media and public attention. It puts pressure on police to deliver results. On 6th June 2025, a local guide came forward with important information. He claimed that on 23rd May, the day Raja and Sonam disappeared, he had seen the couple near the Way Sodong viewpoint, but they were not alone. The guide said they were with 3 unidentified men. This was a major development, if true. It meant that Raja and Sonam had been with other people shortly before they went missing. The guide's account was taken seriously by investigators. The guide's statement raised many questions. Who were these 3 men? Were they other tourists? Were they locals? How did Raja and Sonam end up with them? Did they hire them as guides? Did they meet them by chance? Or was something more sinister going on? Police began looking for these 3 men, but they had no names and no clear descriptions beyond what the guide could provide. Then, on 9th June 2025, the case took a stunning turn. The Meghalaya police arrested Sonam Raghuvanshi. She was arrested on charges of conspiracy to murder. Sonam had been found in Ghazipur, a district in Uttar Pradesh, another state in northern India. Ghazipur is far from Meghalaya, over 1,500 kilometers away. Sonam had been missing for more than 2 weeks, and now she was in police custody, not as a victim, but as a suspect. According to the police, Sonam had orchestrated her husband's murder. They alleged that she had hired 3 contract killers to kill Raja during their honeymoon in Meghalaya. This allegation shocked the public and the families. Contract killers are hired assassins. The idea that a new bride would hire men to kill her husband of less than 2 weeks was almost unbelievable. Investigators revealed more details. They said that one of the alleged conspirators was a man named Raj Singh Kushwaha. Police claimed that Raj Singh Kushwaha was Sonam's lover. They said he worked at a firm owned by Sonam's brother in Madhya Pradesh. This suggested that Sonam and Raj Singh Kushwaha had a relationship before her marriage to Raja. The implication was that Sonam did not want to be married to Raja, or that she and her lover wanted Raja out of the way. Police said they had recovered multiple pieces of evidence to support this theory. They had CCTV footage, though they did not specify what it showed. They had mobile phone records. Phone records can show who called whom, when, and from where. They can also show the location of phones based on which cell towers they connected to. Investigators likely used this data to track Sonam's movements and her communications with Raj Singh Kushwaha and others. There was also the statement from the local guide who said he saw Raja and Sonam with 3 unidentified men. Police now believe that those 3 men were the contract killers hired by Sonam. The guide's account became a key piece of evidence. It placed Sonam and the alleged killers together at the location where Raja's body was later found. Sonam was transferred from Uttar Pradesh to Meghalaya for custodial interrogation. In India, police can hold suspects in custody for questioning, though there are legal limits on how long they can do so without filing formal charges. The case attracted even more media attention now. News channels covered it constantly. Social media was full of debates and speculation. Some people immediately believed the police version of events. Others were skeptical. Some wondered if Sonam was being framed or if there were other explanations. The families reacted strongly. Raja's mother made a public statement demanding capital punishment for those involved in her son's murder. In India, the death penalty is legal for the rarest of rare cases, though it is used infrequently. The emotional weight of her demand reflected the family's grief and rage. They wanted justice, and they wanted it to be severe. Sonam's father, on the other hand, rejected the police's narrative. He called for a CBI investigation. He did not believe that his daughter could have done what police were accusing her of. This is not uncommon. Families often struggle to accept that a loved one could commit a serious crime. But it also raised questions. Was the evidence against Sonam solid, or were there gaps in the case? By the time of Sonam's arrest, police had arrested 4 people in connection with the case. This would include Sonam herself and presumably Raj Singh Kushwaha and 2 of the alleged contract killers. A 5th suspect remained at large. Police were still searching for that person. The investigation continued. Police were building their case. They had to prove that Sonam had conspired to murder Raja, that she had hired contract killers, and that those killers had carried out the murder. This required evidence of planning, communication, and execution. It also required motive. Why would Sonam want Raja dead? The alleged relationship between Sonam and Raj Singh Kushwaha provided a possible motive. If Sonam was in love with someone else, she might not have wanted to be married to Raja. But in India, especially in traditional or arranged marriages, divorce can be difficult and stigmatized. Some people might see murder as a way out, though this is obviously extreme and rare. Another possible motive could be financial. If Raja had money or property, Sonam might have stood to inherit it, but there was no public information suggesting that was the case. The way Raja was killed suggested personal hatred or a desire to make him suffer. His body was found at the bottom of a gorge. The exact cause of death was not publicly released, but the fact that police immediately called it a murder suggested violence. The location, beneath a waterfall in a remote gorge, suggested an attempt to hide the body. But it was also a place that searchers would eventually check, especially with drones. The items found at the scene, including the woman's white shirt and the smartwatch, suggested that Sonam had been there. Maybe she was present when Raja was killed. Maybe she helped lure him to the location. Or maybe the killers took her belongings to make it look like she had been abducted or killed as well. The latter scenario would be clever. If it looked like both Raja and Sonam had been murdered or abducted, no one would suspect Sonam of involvement. She could disappear, lie low for a while, and then resurface claiming to have escaped or been released. But if that was the plan, it failed. Sonam was found and arrested. The police clearly believed they had enough evidence to charge her. The case moved forward. As the investigation unfolded, the public remained fascinated and divided. Some people saw Sonam as a cold-blooded killer who had betrayed her husband in the worst possible way. Others saw her as a young woman who might have been trapped in an unwanted marriage and made a terrible decision. Still others questioned whether the police had the right person at all. The case had all the elements of a dramatic thriller: a honeymoon, a murder, a missing wife, alleged lovers, contract killers, and a shocking arrest. The case also highlighted issues in Indian society. Arranged marriages are still common, especially in more traditional communities. Sometimes, young people are pressured into marriages they do not want. If Sonam had been forced to marry Raja against her will, that might explain why she would want out. But even if that were true, it would not justify murder. There are legal and social ways to exit a marriage, even in India. Divorce, while stigmatized, is possible and becoming more common. The involvement of contract killers was particularly disturbing. Hired assassins exist in India, as they do in many countries. They are often linked to organized crime or operate in the underworld. The fact that someone could hire killers to murder a spouse during a honeymoon was chilling. It raised questions about how such connections are made and how such plans are carried out. The location of the crime also added to the tragedy. Meghalaya is a place of natural beauty. Cherrapunji is known for its peaceful, almost mystical atmosphere. The living root bridges are symbols of harmony between humans and nature. For such a violent crime to happen in such a place felt like a violation of the landscape itself. Tourism is important to Meghalaya's economy, and a high-profile murder case could affect how people perceive the safety of the region. The investigation by the Special Investigation Team continued. Forensic evidence was being analyzed. The blood-stained weapon, the raincoat with stains, the items found at the scene, all had to be tested and examined. Phone records had to be analyzed in detail to establish timelines and connections. Witnesses had to be interviewed and re-interviewed. The 3 alleged contract killers, who were in custody, had to be interrogated. Police would want confessions, though confessions alone are not always reliable or admissible in court without corroborating evidence. The case also brought attention to the challenges of interstate investigation in India. Raja and Sonam were from Madhya Pradesh. The crime happened in Meghalaya. Sonam was arrested in Uttar Pradesh. Raj Singh Kushwaha worked in Madhya Pradesh. This meant that police from multiple states had to coordinate. In India, each state has its own police force, and cooperation between states can sometimes be complicated by bureaucracy and jurisdictional issues. The involvement of a special investigation team helped, but it was still a complex task. The families on both sides were left to cope with an unimaginable situation. Raja's family had lost a son and brother. They were grieving and angry. They wanted justice, but justice would not bring Raja back. Sonam's family was in a different kind of pain. Their daughter was accused of a terrible crime. They had to grapple with the possibility that she might have done it, or defend her if they believed she was innocent. Either way, they were facing a nightmare. The case also became a topic of discussion in Indian media and among the public about the nature of crime, marriage, and justice. Television news channels ran panel discussions. Social media was full of opinions. Some people condemned Sonam outright. Others urged caution and said everyone deserves a fair trial. The case became a mirror for broader social anxieties about marriage, trust, and violence. As of the time the information was compiled, the investigation was ongoing. The case had not gone to trial yet. Sonam and the other accused were in custody. Police were still looking for the 5th suspect. The evidence was being prepared for prosecution. The families were waiting for the legal process to move forward. The murder of Raja Raghuvanshi is a case that will likely be remembered for a long time in India. It has all the elements that capture public attention: a young couple, a honeymoon, a beautiful location, a shocking murder, an alleged conspiracy, and a wife accused of killing her husband. It is a story that seems almost too dramatic to be true, and yet it is real. Raja is dead, Sonam is in custody, families are destroyed, and the truth is still being pieced together. The case raises many questions that may never be fully answered. If Sonam did conspire to murder Raja, how long had she been planning it? Did she plan it before the wedding? Or did something happen during the honeymoon that triggered the decision? If Raj Singh Kushwaha was her lover, why did she marry Raja at all? Was she forced into the marriage? Did she think she could have both a husband and a lover? Or was the plan always to get rid of Raja? And what about the contract killers? How did Sonam or Raj Singh Kushwaha find them? How much were they paid? Did they know their victims? Or were Raja and Sonam just anonymous targets? The guide who saw Raja and Sonam with 3 men, did he sense anything wrong at the time? Could he have intervened? The case also highlights the importance of evidence in modern investigations. CCTV footage, phone records, and forensic analysis are all crucial tools for police. Without the NDRF drone, Raja's body might not have been found for much longer, if at all. Without phone records, the connection between Sonam and Raj Singh Kushwaha might not have been established. Modern technology can help solve crimes, but it also means that it is harder to get away with them. The legal process in India can be slow. It may take years for the case to go to trial. There will be hearings, arguments, appeals. Sonam and the other accused are entitled to legal representation and a fair trial. The prosecution will have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense will challenge the evidence and the narrative. The families will have to endure the process and relive the trauma over and over. If Sonam is convicted, she will face severe punishment. Murder and conspiracy to commit murder carry long prison sentences in India, and in some cases, the death penalty. If she is acquitted, she will walk free, but her life will never be the same. Her reputation is already destroyed. She will always be the woman who was accused of murdering her husband on their honeymoon, even if a court finds her not guilty. The case of Raja and Sonam Raghuvanshi is a tragedy on multiple levels. A young man is dead, a young woman is accused of his murder. 2 families are shattered, a beautiful place has been tainted by violence. And the public is left to wonder how something so awful could happen. The story also serves as a reminder that we can never truly know what goes on inside a relationship or inside someone's mind. From the outside, Raja and Sonam might have looked like any other newlywed couple. They were on their honeymoon, visiting beautiful places, starting their life together. But according to police, beneath that surface, there was a plot to kill. It is a disturbing reminder that appearances can be deceiving. As the investigation continues and the case moves through the legal system, more details will emerge. There will be more evidence, more testimony, more revelations. The full story of what happened on 23 May 2025 in the hills of Meghalaya will eventually come out. But whatever the outcome, Raja Raghuvanshi will not come back. His life was cut short at 29 years old. His family will never stop grieving, and the case will remain a dark chapter in the story of a place known for its natural beauty and tranquility. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on with the Miranda Barber and Alit Barber case, USA, 2014. On the morning of November 12, 2013, a resident in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, looked out into their backyard and made a horrifying discovery. There was a body lying in the yard. The resident immediately called the police. When officers arrived, they found the body of a man who had been stabbed multiple times. He was identified as Troy LaFerrara, a 42-year-old man from Port Trevorton, Pennsylvania. LaFerrara had been murdered the night before. His body had been dumped in the residential backyard. The investigation into who killed him would lead police to a newly married couple who claimed they killed LaFerrara simply because they wanted to murder someone together. Troy LaFerrara lived in Port Trevorton, a small community in central Pennsylvania. On November 11, 2013, LaFerrara made contact with someone through an online advertisement on Craigslist. The ad had been posted by a woman offering companionship in exchange for money. LaFerrara agreed to meet the woman. That evening, he drove to the Susquehanna Valley Mall parking lot in Hummel's Wharf, Pennsylvania. The woman was waiting for him there. Her name was Miranda Barber. She was 19 years old. Miranda Barber was born Miranda Camille Dean on December 14, 1994, in North Pole, Alaska. She had a difficult childhood. According to Miranda, she was molested by a relative when she was 4 years old. Her mother later confirmed this claim. Miranda's uncle was charged with sexual abuse of a minor and sentenced to 19 years in prison. Miranda claimed that the abuse affected her deeply and shaped her life in dark ways. She said that when she was 13 years old, she joined a satanic cult. According to Miranda, the cult leader soon forced her to commit her first murder. She claimed the leader ordered her to shoot a man who owed money to the cult. She said she obeyed. Whether any of this was true would later become a matter of intense debate. Miranda met Elit Barbour sometime in 2013. Elit was born on November 11, 1991. He graduated from Triton High School in 2010. Not much is publicly known about his early life or family background. What is known is that he and Miranda quickly became close. They began a romantic relationship. On October 22, 2013, less than 3 weeks before the murder of Troy LaFerrara, Miranda and Elit got married. At the time, they were living in Dunn, North Carolina. They were both young. Miranda was 18, Elit was 21. They had a daughter together, though details about the child are limited to protect her privacy. After their marriage, Miranda and Elit moved to Pennsylvania. They settled in the Sunbury area. On the surface, they appeared to be a typical young couple trying to start their lives together. But according to police, something darker was happening. Elit later told investigators that he and Miranda shared a disturbing fantasy. They wanted to kill someone together. They discussed it, they planned it, and 3 weeks after their wedding, they decided to act on it. Miranda posted an advertisement on Craigslist offering to meet men for sex in exchange for payment. Elit has publicly denied that Miranda was a sex worker. He claimed she only met men for what he called delightful conversation. However, Miranda herself stated that she agreed to meet LaFerrara for sex and that she charged $100. On November 11, 2013, Troy LaFerrara responded to the advertisement. He and Miranda made arrangements to meet that evening. LaFerrara drove to the Susquehanna Valley Mall parking lot in Hummel's Wharf. Miranda was waiting there in her Honda CR-V. LaFerrara got into the passenger seat. They discussed the payment. After settling on the price, Miranda began driving. She told LaFerrara they would go to a more private location. She drove about 6 miles to Sunbury, a small city located roughly 100 miles northwest of Philadelphia. What LaFerrara did not know was that Miranda's husband, Elit, was hiding in the back seat of the vehicle under a blanket. As Miranda drove, she and LaFerrara talked. At some point during the drive, Miranda gave a signal to Elit. Elit suddenly emerged from under the blanket. He had a cord with him. He wrapped it around LaFerrara's neck from behind and pulled tight, strangling him. At the same time, Miranda pulled out a knife. She began stabbing LaFerrara repeatedly. LaFerrara struggled, but he had no chance. He was trapped in the front seat with a cord around his neck and a knife plunging into his body again and again. Miranda stabbed him 20 times. LaFerrara died in the vehicle. After killing LaFerrara, Miranda and Elit drove to a residential area. They dumped his body in a backyard, then they left. But they were not finished yet. According to police, the couple went to a store and purchased bleach wipes, towels, and cleaning liquid. They returned to the Honda CR-V and thoroughly cleaned the interior to remove all traces of blood. After cleaning the vehicle, they went out to dinner. They ate a meal together as if nothing had happened. The next morning, November 12th, LaFerrara's body was discovered in the backyard where it had been left. Police began investigating immediately. They identified the victim as Troy LaFerrara. They started tracing his last known movements. Investigators discovered that the last call from LaFerrara's phone had been to a number belonging to Miranda Barbour. This was the breakthrough they needed. Police brought Miranda and Elit in for questioning. At first, both denied knowing anything about Troy LaFerrara. They said they had never met him. They claimed they did not know who he was. but the phone records proved they were lying. Police confronted them with the evidence. Under pressure, their stories began to change. Miranda initially claimed self-defense. She said La Ferrara had attacked her and she fought back, but as the interrogation continued, that story fell apart. Eventually, both Miranda and Alit confessed to the murder. According to the arrest affidavit, Alit told police that he and Miranda killed La Ferrara because they simply wanted to murder someone together. They wanted to know what it felt like. They wanted to share the experience. The killing was not about money, or revenge, or self-defense. It was what investigators call a thrill killing. It was murder for the sake of murder. Miranda Barber, age 19, and Alit Barber, age 22, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. In Pennsylvania, first-degree murder can carry the death penalty. Both were also charged with aggravated assault, robbery, and possession of an instrument of crime. They were held without bail pending trial. The case attracted local media attention, but it might have remained just another tragic murder case if not for what happened next. In February 2014, a few months after her arrest, Miranda Barber gave an interview to a reporter from the Sunbury Daily Item, a local newspaper. During that interview, Miranda made an extraordinary claim. She said that Troy La Ferrara was not her first victim. She claimed she had killed many other people. She said she had murdered at least 22 people between 2008 and 2013. She claimed these murders took place in multiple states, including Alaska, North Carolina, California, and Texas. Miranda told the reporter that she had joined a satanic cult when she was 13 years old. She said the cult leader forced her to commit her first murder. After that, she continued killing. She said she murdered people who owed money to the cult or who had wronged the cult in some way. She claimed some victims were random. She described herself as a serial killer who had been operating for years without being caught. The interview was published. The story exploded. News outlets around the world picked up the story. Headlines screamed about a teenage serial killer who claimed 22 victims. The FBI got involved. Police departments in Alaska, North Carolina, California, and Texas began investigating Miranda's claims. They searched for unsolved murders that might match her timeline and locations. The media frenzy was intense. But as investigators dug deeper, serious doubts emerged. The Northumberland County District Attorney told the Daily Item that he was skeptical of Miranda's claims. He said, "We have been in contact with other law enforcement agencies where she has lived and haven't received any information verifying what she said." The Alaska State Troopers released a public statement saying they had no evidence that Miranda Barber had committed any murders during her time in Alaska. No bodies were found. No missing persons cases matched her descriptions. No physical evidence supported her claims. Investigators concluded that Miranda Barber was lying. She had not killed 22 people. She had not been part of a satanic cult that ordered murders. She had killed one person, Troy La Ferrara, with her husband's help. The question was why she lied about being a serial killer. Some experts suggested she was seeking attention and notoriety. Others believed she had mental health issues that caused her to fabricate these stories. Some thought she was trying to make herself seem more dangerous or important than she really was. Whatever her motivation, law enforcement found no credible evidence to support any of her claims about previous murders. Despite the lack of evidence for her serial killer claims, the damage was done. The story had gone viral. Miranda Barber became internationally known as the self-proclaimed teenage serial killer. Her name was everywhere. The case of Troy La Ferrara's murder, which should have been a straightforward prosecution, became surrounded by sensational headlines and wild speculation. Miranda and Alit both initially pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder charges. They faced the possibility of the death penalty if convicted. However, in 2015, both accepted plea deals. They pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. In exchange for the guilty pleas, the death penalty was taken off the table. Second-degree murder in Pennsylvania carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. On September 18, 2014, Miranda Barber and Alit Barber were sentenced. The judge sentenced both of them to life in prison without parole. They would spend the rest of their lives behind bars. Miranda was 19 years old at sentencing. Alit was 22. Neither showed remorse in court. Neither apologized to LaFerrara's family. Troy LaFerrara's family attended the sentencing. They had to sit in the courtroom and face the two people who had murdered their loved one. LaFerrara had been a real person with a family who loved him. He was 42 years old when he died. He responded to what he thought was a simple arrangement for companionship. Instead, he walked into a trap. He was strangled and stabbed to death by two people who killed him for no reason other than their own twisted desire to experience murder. The case raised uncomfortable questions. How could two people, especially two newlyweds, decide together to murder a stranger just for the thrill of it? What psychological factors or relationship dynamics led them to this point? Some experts pointed to the phenomenon of folie à deux, a French term meaning madness shared by two. This occurs when two people in a close relationship share the same delusions or destructive impulses, reinforcing and encouraging each other's worst behaviors. In the case of Miranda and Alit Barber, it appeared they had fed off each other's dark fantasies until those fantasies became reality. The case also highlighted the dangers of online platforms like Craigslist. While most transactions on such sites are legitimate, they can also be used by predators to lure victims. LaFerrara had no way of knowing that the woman offering companionship was actually planning to murder him with her husband's help. The case served as a grim reminder that meeting strangers from the internet carries real risks. Miranda Barber's false claims about being a serial killer had lasting effects. Even though investigators thoroughly debunked her story, the claims generated so much media attention that many people still believe she might have killed others. Online forums and true crime websites continue to debate whether she was telling the truth. Some people refuse to believe that a 19-year-old woman would make up such elaborate stories for no reason. But law enforcement has been clear. There is no evidence Miranda Barber killed anyone other than Troy LaFerrara. The false serial killer claims also caused unnecessary pain for families of unsolved murder victims. When the story broke, families across the country wondered if their missing or murdered loved ones might have been Miranda's victims. Police departments had to spend time and resources investigating her claims, taking attention away from other cases. In the end, all of that effort led nowhere. Miranda's claims were a fantasy, a lie, or possibly a delusion. As of today, Miranda Barber and Alit Barber remain in prison, serving their life sentences. Miranda is now 30 years old. Alit is 33. They will never be released. Their daughter, who was very young when they were arrested, is being raised by other family members. The child will have to grow up knowing that both of her parents are convicted murderers serving life sentences. Troy LaFerrara is buried in Pennsylvania. His family has tried to move forward, but the pain of losing him in such a senseless and brutal way never fully goes away. They have stated that they believe justice was served with the life sentences, but no sentence can bring LaFerrara back. The case of Miranda and Alit Barber stands as one of the most disturbing examples of a thrill killing in recent American history. Two young people, newly married, decided together that they wanted to experience murder. They chose a random victim through an online advertisement. They planned the killing. They executed it with cold precision. They cleaned up afterward and went to dinner. And then, when caught, one of them fabricated an elaborate story about being a serial killer, generating international media attention and causing chaos for law enforcement agencies across multiple states. What is certain is this. On November 11th, 2013, 42-year-old Troy LaFerrara of Port Trevorton, Pennsylvania drove to a mall parking lot to meet someone he had contacted through Craigslist. He got into a Honda CR-V driven by 19-year-old Miranda Barber. Her husband, 22-year-old Alit Barbour was hiding in the back seat. As Miranda drove, Alit strangled La Ferrara with a cord while Miranda stabbed him 20 times. They dumped his body in a backyard, cleaned their vehicle, and went to dinner. La Ferrara's body was found the next morning. Police traced phone records and arrested the Barbers. Both eventually confessed. They said they killed La Ferrara because they wanted to murder someone together. During her time in jail awaiting trial, Miranda claimed she had killed at least 22 other people and had been part of a satanic cult since age 13. Investigators found no evidence to support any of these claims. In September 2014, both Miranda and Alit Barbour were sentenced to life in prison without parole. They remain incarcerated today. The case became internationally known not because of the murder itself, but because of Miranda's false claims about being a serial killer, claims that generated worldwide headlines before being thoroughly debunked by law enforcement. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Lakhvinder Cheema and Lakhvir Singh, UK, 2009. In January 2009, Singh poisoned her former lover Lakhvinder Cheema by lacing a leftover curry in his refrigerator with a deadly toxin called aconite. The poison was derived from a plant found in India, and Singh had traveled there specifically to obtain it. Cheema died within hours of eating the poisoned meal, suffering one of the most agonizing deaths imaginable. His new fiancée also ate the curry and barely survived. The case shocked Britain not only because of the brutal method of killing, but because of the extraordinary level of premeditation involved. Singh would receive a life sentence with a 23-year minimum term, and the case would become one of the most infamous poisoning murders in modern British history. To understand how this murder happened, you need to understand the complicated relationships and circumstances that led up to it. Lakhvir Kaur Singh was a married woman with 3 children. She was part of the South Asian community in Southall, West London, an area with a large Indian and Pakistani population. Singh was married to a man named Ankar Singh, who was being treated for cancer during the time these events unfolded. Despite being married, Singh had been carrying on a secret affair for 16 years with a man named Lakhvinder Cheema. This was not a brief fling or a moment of weakness. This was a relationship that had lasted more than a decade and a half. Lakhvinder Cheema had been married before, but his first marriage had failed. After that, he became involved with Singh, and their affair continued for years. The relationship was hidden from their families and the wider community. In South Asian communities, especially among older generations, extramarital affairs carry enormous social stigma. Both Singh and Cheema would have understood the consequences if their relationship became public. They would face judgment, gossip, and potential ostracism from family and friends. So they kept the affair secret, meeting in private and maintaining the appearance of normal lives to the outside world. For 16 years, Singh and Cheema maintained this secret relationship. Singh was juggling her role as a wife and mother while carrying on this affair. Cheema was living his own life while being romantically involved with a married woman. The arrangement worked for more than a decade, but affairs, especially long-term ones, are inherently unstable. They exist in a state of secrecy and tension. One person often wants more than the other is willing or able to give. Resentments build up over time. Promises are made and broken. And when one person decides they want out, the other person may not be willing to let go. In November 2008, something happened that would set the stage for murder. Lakhvinder Cheema decided to end his affair with Singh. After 16 years together, he told her it was over. But he didn't just break up with her. He also announced that he had become engaged to another woman, someone younger. This was a devastating blow to Singh on multiple levels. She had invested 16 years of her life in this relationship. She had risked her marriage, her reputation, and her standing in the community for this man. And now he was casting her aside for someone else, someone younger and presumably more desirable in his eyes. Singh did not react well to this news. According to evidence that would later emerge, she made threats against Cheema and his new fiancé. She told Chima that if she ever found him in bed with this other woman, she would burn down his house. This was not an idle threat made in the heat of the moment and then forgotten. This was a statement that reflected the depth of her rage and her unwillingness to accept that their relationship was over. Singh was not going to simply walk away and let Chima start a new life without her. If she couldn't have him, she would make sure he suffered consequences. What happened next suggests that Singh began planning Chima's murder almost immediately after he broke off the affair. In December 2008, just weeks after the breakup, Chima became seriously ill after eating a meal that Singh had prepared for him. He was hospitalized for a week with suspected poisoning. Doctors couldn't figure out exactly what had made him so sick, but the symptoms were severe enough to require hospitalization. Chima survived this incident, but it should have been a warning sign. Someone had tried to poison him. The most likely suspect was Singh, the woman he had just broken up with and who had threatened him. But either Chima didn't make the connection, or he didn't want to believe that Singh would actually try to kill him. After being released from the hospital, Chima continued with his plans to marry his new fiancée, Gurjeet Chung. He moved forward with his life as if the poisoning incident had been some kind of accident or misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Singh was already planning her next move. In early January 2009, Singh took a trip to India. The purpose of this trip was not to visit family or to take a vacation. She went to India specifically to obtain a poison that would be deadly and difficult to trace. She was looking for something that would kill Chima without immediately pointing back to her as the murderer. The poison Singh obtained was derived from a plant called Aconitum ferox, also known as Indian aconite or bich. This plant grows in the mountainous regions of India and contains a highly toxic alkaloid called pseudoconitine. Aconite has been used as a poison for thousands of years. In ancient times, it was used to poison arrows and spears. In more recent history, it has been used in traditional medicine in very small, carefully controlled doses, but in larger amounts, it is absolutely lethal. The poison attacks the nervous system and the heart. It causes severe symptoms and an agonizing death, and there is no antidote. Singh returned from India with the aconite poison hidden in her belongings. She now had everything she needed to carry out her plan. On January 27, 2009, Singh went to Chima's home in Southall, West London. Chima was not home at the time, which may have been part of Singh's calculation. She knew his routine. She knew when he would be out and when he would return. She also knew that he and his fiancée, Gurjeet Chung, were planning to eat together that evening. When Singh entered Chima's home, she went directly to the refrigerator. Inside, she found a container of leftover curry. This was a meal that Chima planned to reheat and share with Chung later that evening. Singh took the curry out of the refrigerator and laced it with the aconite poison she had brought from India. She mixed the poison thoroughly into the curry so that it would be evenly distributed throughout the dish. Then she put the curry back in the refrigerator and left the house. The trap was set. All she had to do now was wait for Chima and his fiancée to eat the poisoned meal. That evening, Chima and Gurjeet Chung sat down to dinner together. They took the curry out of the refrigerator, heated it up, and began eating. The curry tasted normal. There was nothing about the flavor or appearance that suggested anything was wrong. Chima was hungry and enjoyed the meal so much that he had second helpings. This would prove to be a fatal decision. The more curry he ate, the more poison entered his system. Within a short time after finishing the meal, Chima began to feel sick. His symptoms came on quickly and were severe. He started vomiting violently. His face became numb. He lost his vision. He began losing the use of his limbs, becoming paralyzed even as he remained fully conscious and aware of what was happening to him. This is one of the most horrifying aspects of aconite poisoning. Victims remain conscious throughout the ordeal. They can feel and understand everything that is happening to them, but they are powerless to stop it. Their organs begin to shut down. They struggle to breathe as their respiratory system fails. They die from asphyxiation, essentially suffocating to death while fully aware. Gurjit Chung was experiencing the same symptoms. She had also eaten the poisoned curry, though apparently not as much as Chima. She was vomiting, her face was numb, and she was losing control of her body. The couple realized something was terribly wrong. At some point during this medical crisis, Chima made a 999 call, which is the emergency number in the United Kingdom. During that call, Chima stated that he had been poisoned by his ex-girlfriend. Even as he was dying, he knew who was responsible. He understood that Singh had done this to him. Chima's sister was nearby and was able to get both Chima and Chung to the hospital. But by the time they arrived, Chima was in critical condition. The poison had done its work. His organs were failing, and his body was shutting down. Doctors tried to save him, but there was nothing they could do. Aconite poisoning has no antidote. Treatment is limited to supportive care and trying to manage symptoms, but once a lethal dose has been ingested, death is almost inevitable. Chima died within an hour of arriving at the hospital. He was only in his late 30s, cut down in the prime of his life by a woman he had once loved and trusted. Gurjit Chung was luckier, though she barely survived. Because she had eaten less of the curry than Chima, she had ingested a smaller dose of the poison. Doctors placed her in a medically induced coma to give her body time to fight off the effects of the toxin. She remained in critical condition for days, balanced on the edge between life and death. But eventually, her condition stabilized. She made a full recovery physically, though the psychological and emotional trauma of the experience would stay with her forever. She had come within inches of dying the same horrible death as Chima. The investigation into Chima's death moved quickly once police understood they were dealing with a poisoning. Chima had told emergency responders that his ex-girlfriend had poisoned him, so Singh was immediately a suspect. Police began gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. What they discovered was a trail of premeditation and planning that left no doubt about Singh's guilt. One crucial piece of evidence came from a lodger who was living in Chima's house. This lodger witnessed Singh at the house on the day of the murder. The lodger saw Singh taking the curry out of the refrigerator. This testimony placed Singh at the scene and showed that she had access to the food that would later poison Chima and Chung. Without this witness, Singh might have been able to claim she was never at the house that day. But the lodger's testimony destroyed that potential defense. Police also found physical evidence directly linking Singh to the poison. When they searched Singh's belongings, they discovered a plastic bag containing brown powder hidden in her coat. When Singh was questioned about this powder, she claimed it was medication for a rash on her neck. This was a lie. Testing of the powder revealed it was Indian aconite, the same poison that had been found in the curry that killed Chima. The powder in Singh's coat was a perfect match. She had been carrying the murder weapon with her. Investigators also looked into Singh's recent travel history. They discovered that she had traveled to India in early January 2009, just weeks before the murder. There was no legitimate reason for someone living in London to travel to India specifically to obtain aconite. The plant does not grow naturally in the United Kingdom. Singh had gone out of her way, traveling thousands of miles to a different country, to obtain a poison that she could use to murder Chima. This showed an extraordinary level of planning and determination. Singh was arrested and charged with murder and grievous bodily harm. Grievous bodily harm is a serious criminal charge in the United Kingdom that refers to causing severe physical harm to another person. Singh was charged with this offense in relation to Gurjit Chung, who had survived the poisoning. Singh was also charged with attempted murder of Chung. Additionally, she was charged with an earlier offense of administering poison to Chima on a previous occasion, referring to the December 2008 incident when Chima had been hospitalized. The trial took place at the Old Bailey in February 2010. The Old Bailey is the Central Criminal Court of England and Wales and is located in London. It is one of the most famous criminal courts in the world and is where the most serious criminal cases in England are tried. The prosecution presented an overwhelming case against Singh. They had witness testimony placing her at the scene. They had physical evidence of the poison in her possession. They had evidence of her trip to India to obtain the poison. They had Chima's own statement that his ex-girlfriend had poisoned him. And they had the motive, which was revenge for Chima, ending their affair and becoming engaged to someone else. Singh attempted to defend herself by claiming that her brother-in-law, a man named Varinda, was actually responsible for the crime. She tried to shift the blame onto him, suggesting that he had access to the poison and had poisoned Chima for his own reasons. But this defense fell apart under scrutiny. The lodger had witnessed Singh, not Varinda, taking the curry out of the refrigerator. The poison had been found in Singh's coat, not Varinda's. The timeline of events and the evidence all pointed directly to Singh as the killer. The trial also brought attention to the rare nature of this type of poisoning. The case gained significant media coverage due to the particularly cruel nature of Chima's death. Victims of aconite poisoning suffer tremendously before they die. They experience severe vomiting and often become paralyzed. Their organs stop working, and they die from asphyxiation, yet they remain conscious and aware throughout the entire ordeal. They know they are dying, and they can do nothing to stop it. This makes aconite poisoning one of the most sadistic methods of murder imaginable. The prosecution pointed out that the case was also highly unusual from a historical perspective. The last prosecution for murder using aconite in England had been in 1882, more than a century earlier. That case involved a man named George Henry Lamson who had poisoned his brother-in-law to inherit money. The rarity of aconite poisoning made Singh's case particularly notable. This was not a common poison that could be easily obtained. Singh had gone to extraordinary lengths to get it, which demonstrated the depth of her planning and her commitment to carrying out the murder. On February 10, 2010, the jury delivered its verdict. Singh was convicted of the murder of Lakhvinder Chima. She was also convicted of grievous bodily harm against Gurjeet Chung. However, she was acquitted of attempted murder of Chung. The distinction here is important. The jury believed that Singh had intended to kill Chima and had succeeded. They also believed she had caused serious harm to Chung, but they were not convinced beyond reasonable doubt that Singh specifically intended to kill Chung. It's possible the jury believed Singh's primary target was Chima and that Chung was collateral damage, someone who happened to be there and ate the poisoned food without being the intended victim. Singh was also acquitted of the charge related to administering poison to Chima on the previous occasion in December 2008. While it seems highly likely that Singh was responsible for that poisoning as well, the prosecution was unable to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. There may not have been enough physical evidence or witness testimony to definitively link Singh to that earlier incident. The sentencing phase of the trial was significant. The Crown, which is the prosecution in the British legal system, sought life imprisonment for Singh with a minimum term of 30 years. They argued that this was an exceptionally serious case due to the gravity of the murder method, the level of premeditation involved, and the fact that there had been 2 victims, one of whom died and one of whom barely survived. 30 years is an extremely long minimum term and is typically reserved for the most serious murders involving aggravating factors like torture, multiple victims, or crimes committed for hire. However, the judge ultimately sentenced Singh to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 23 years. This means Singh must serve at least 23 years in prison before she can even be considered for parole. Life imprisonment in the United Kingdom does not necessarily mean the person will die in prison. It means they are given a life sentence with a minimum term that must be served. After serving that minimum term, they can apply for parole, but there is no guarantee they will be released. The parole board will assess whether they still pose a danger to the public and whether they have shown genuine remorse and rehabilitation. If Singh is ever released, she will remain on license for the rest of her life, meaning she can be recalled to prison at any time if she violates the conditions of her release or commits another offense. The immediate aftermath of the trial brought some measure of closure to Chima's family, though nothing could truly compensate for their loss. They had watched a loved one die in one of the most horrible ways imaginable. They had endured a trial where the details of his death were discussed in graphic detail. They had learned about his 16-year affair with a married woman, which may have been news to some family members. They had to process all of this while grieving his death. For Gurjit Chung, the aftermath was complex and traumatic. She had survived a murder attempt, but she had also watched her fiancé die right in front of her. She had been through the same terrifying experience he had, feeling her body shut down and losing control of her limbs while remaining conscious. She had been placed in a medically induced coma and had spent days in critical condition. Even after physically recovering, the psychological impact of what she experienced would have been profound. She had to deal with survivor's guilt, post-traumatic stress, and the knowledge that someone had tried to kill her simply because she was with the man she loved. The case became known as the Curry Killer murder because of the method Singh used to deliver the poison. The nickname is somewhat sensationalistic, but it does capture the unusual nature of the crime. Singh used a common, everyday food item as the delivery mechanism for a deadly poison. Curry is a staple in South Asian cuisine and is a comfort food for many people in the Indian and Pakistani communities. Singh weaponized this familiar food, turning something that should have been nourishing and enjoyable into an instrument of death. The long-term repercussions of this case extended beyond the immediate victims and their families. The case raised awareness about the dangers of plant-based poisons and how relatively easy it can be for someone with determination to obtain deadly substances. Aconite plants grow naturally in certain parts of the world, including the mountainous regions of India, China, and Nepal. While the poison is not commonly available in Western countries, someone who knows where to look and is willing to travel can obtain it. This case showed that international travel and global connections can make it possible for criminals to access poisons and weapons that would otherwise be difficult to obtain in their home countries. The case also highlighted the issue of domestic violence and crimes of passion within immigrant communities. Singh was part of the South Asian community in Southall, which is one of the largest and most established Indian and Pakistani communities in the United Kingdom. The case brought attention to issues that are sometimes hidden within tight-knit communities, such as extramarital affairs, the pressure to maintain reputation and honor, and the extreme measures some people will take when they feel betrayed or abandoned. While these issues exist in all communities and cultures, the case provided a window into dynamics that are not always visible to outsiders. From a legal and forensic perspective, the case was significant because it involved a rare poison and required sophisticated toxicology testing to identify the cause of death. When Chima first arrived at the hospital, doctors would not have immediately known they were dealing with aconite poisoning. The symptoms could have been attributed to various causes. It was only through careful toxicology analysis that investigators were able to identify the specific poison and trace it back to Singh. This case demonstrated the importance of thorough forensic investigation and the role that specialized knowledge plays in solving unusual murders. The case also raised questions about the earlier poisoning incident in December 2008. Although Singh was acquitted of that charge, it seems highly likely that she was responsible for making Chima sick that first time. If that's true, it means she made two separate attempts on his life. The first attempt in December failed, possibly because she didn't use enough poison or because Chima received medical treatment in time. After that failure, Singh went back to India, obtained a more potent supply of poison, and tried again. This pattern of behavior shows a level of persistence and determination that is chilling. Singh was willing to try multiple times until she succeeded in killing Chima. Lakhvir Kaur Singh is currently serving her sentence in a British prison. She will be eligible for parole consideration after serving her minimum term of 23 years, which would be in 2033. She would be in her 60s by that time, assuming she was in her 40s at the time of the murder. Whether she will actually be released at that point depends on many factors, including her behavior in prison, whether she has expressed genuine remorse, whether she has engaged in rehabilitation programs, and whether the parole board believes she poses a continued risk to public safety. Given the premeditated and cruel nature of her crime, it's possible she could serve significantly longer than the minimum term, or even remain in prison for the rest of her life. The case serves as a reminder of how betrayal and rejection can drive some people to commit unthinkable acts. Singh had been in a relationship with Chima for 16 years. That's longer than many marriages last. When he ended the affair and became engaged to someone else, Singh felt discarded and replaced. Her rage and sense of betrayal were so intense that she was willing to commit murder to punish him. She didn't just want Chima dead, she wanted him to suffer. She chose a method of killing that would cause maximum pain and terror. She knew that aconite would make him suffer tremendously before he died. That was part of the appeal for her. She wanted him to experience agony as payback for the emotional pain she felt he had caused her. The case also demonstrates that women are capable of calculated, premeditated murder, just as men are. While violent crimes and murders are statistically more likely to be committed by men, this case shows that women can plan and execute murders with equal levels of sophistication and cruelty. Singh traveled to another country to obtain a rare poison. She waited for the right opportunity. She poisoned food that she knew Chima would eat, and she did all of this while maintaining an outward appearance of normalcy. This required planning, patience, and cold-blooded calculation. For the South Asian community in Southall and beyond, the case was a source of shame and distress. The community takes pride in its values of family, respect, and honor. The case of the Curry killer brought negative attention and reinforced stereotypes about crimes of passion and honor-based violence within immigrant communities. While it's important to acknowledge that these issues exist and need to be addressed, it's equally important to recognize that Singh's actions were those of an individual, not a reflection of an entire community or culture. The lasting impact of this case can be seen in how it changed the lives of everyone involved. Lakhvinder Chima is dead, killed in one of the most painful ways possible. Gurjeet Chung survived but was traumatized and lost the man she was planning to marry. Chima's family lost a son and brother. Singh's own 3 children lost their mother to prison and will carry the shame of her crime for the rest of their lives. Singh's husband, Onkar, who was already suffering from cancer, had to deal with the revelation of his wife's 16-year affair and her conviction for murder. The ripple effects of this crime touched dozens of lives and will continue to be felt for generations. The case of Lakhvinder Chima and Lakhvir Singh stands as one of the most calculated and cruel murders in recent British history. It involved a rare poison, extraordinary premeditation, and a method of killing that caused maximum suffering to the victim. It revealed the dark side of a long-term affair and showed what can happen when love turns to hatred and the desire for revenge becomes all-consuming. Singh's life sentence ensures she will spend the prime of her remaining years behind bars, punished for the choice she made to take another person's life in the most brutal way she could devise. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Next, the Naina Sani and Sushil Sharma, India, 1995 case. On July 2, 1995, 29-year-old Naina Sani was shot and killed by her husband, Sushil Sharma, a youth leader in the Indian National Congress Party. After murdering her, Sharma took her body to a restaurant and attempted to burn it in a tandoor, which is a traditional clay oven used for cooking. The case shocked India, not only because of the brutal nature of the killing, but because of the horrific method Sharma used to try to dispose of his wife's body. The crime became a media sensation, dominating headlines for years. Sharma was convicted of murder by the trial court, the Delhi High Court, and the Supreme Court. He was initially sentenced to death, but in October 2013, the Supreme Court commuted his sentence to life imprisonment. In December 2018, after spending nearly 23 years in prison, Sharma was released. To understand how this murder happened, you need to understand the relationship between Naina Sani and Sushil Sharma and the political world they both inhabited. Both were active members of the Indian National Congress. one of India's major political parties. The Congress Party has a long and storied history in India. It was the party of Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. It led India's independence movement and governed the country for most of its history after independence. Being part of the Congress Party, especially in leadership positions, meant having access to power, influence, and connections. Sushil Sharma was a youth leader within the Congress Party in Delhi. Youth wings of political parties in India are important breeding grounds for future political leaders. These positions come with status and influence, even if the person is not yet a major political figure. Sharma was known within party circles and had ambitions for a political career. He was connected to people in power and moved in circles where politics, business, and social status intersected. Naina Sani was also involved with the Congress Party. She worked with the party and was active in its activities in Delhi. She was educated, articulate, and ambitious in her own right. Naina came from a Punjabi family and was described by those who knew her as intelligent and capable. She had dreams and aspirations beyond just being someone's wife. She wanted to make something of herself in the political world where she and Sharma both operated. Naina and Sushil got married, though the exact circumstances of their marriage and how long they had known each other before marrying are not entirely clear from public records. What is clear is that their marriage was troubled from early on. There were reports of domestic violence and conflict between them. Sharma was reportedly possessive and controlling. He had a temper and was known to be aggressive. Friends and family members later said that Naina had complained about Sharma's behavior, though it is not clear if she ever reported him to authorities or sought formal help. The marriage existed within the context of Delhi's political scene in the mid-1990s. This was a time when Indian politics was going through significant changes. The Congress Party, which had dominated Indian politics for decades, was facing increased competition from other parties. Coalition politics was becoming more common. There was also growing media scrutiny of politicians and their personal lives. Television news was expanding, and investigative journalism was becoming more aggressive. Within this environment, both Naina and Sushil were trying to build their careers and maintain their positions within the party. Political work in India often involves long hours, networking events, rallies, and meetings that can extend late into the night. Both partners being involved in politics meant they were both busy, both ambitious, and both operating in a world where relationships and alliances mattered greatly. This could create tensions in a marriage, especially if one partner felt the other was not supporting their ambitions or was becoming too independent. By 1995, the marriage between Naina and Sushil had deteriorated significantly. There were allegations that Naina had been having an affair with another Congress Party member. These allegations would later become central to the case and to understanding Sharma's motive for murder. Whether the affair actually happened or was suspected by Sharma based on jealousy and paranoia would be debated during the trial. But what is clear is that Sharma believed Naina was unfaithful, and this belief consumed him with rage and a desire for revenge. The political connections that both Naina and Sushil had would also become relevant after the murder. When a crime involves people connected to powerful political parties, there are often questions about whether those connections will be used to influence the investigation or the judicial process. In India, where corruption and political interference in law enforcement have been persistent problems, such concerns are not unfounded. The Naina Sani case would test whether the justice system could function independently when dealing with someone who had political connections and access to resources that ordinary citizens do not have. Sushil Sharma was a youth leader within the party. Youth leaders are important figures in Indian politics. They organize rallies, mobilize voters, and serve as the face of the party to younger generations. Youth leadership positions can be stepping stones to more powerful roles in government. Sharma was ambitious and well-connected. He had political aspirations and saw himself as someone destined for greater things. He was also known to have a temper and a possessive streak. particularly when it came to his wife. Naina Sani was also involved with the Congress Party. She worked as a political activist and was respected within party circles. She was intelligent, well-spoken, and committed to her work. Naina and Sushil had married, and on the surface, they appeared to be a political power couple. Both were young, ambitious, and moving in influential circles. But beneath the surface, their marriage was troubled. Sushil was intensely jealous and controlling. He monitored Naina's activities and friendships. He suspected her of being unfaithful, though there was no clear evidence to support his suspicions. The source of Sushil's jealousy was Naina's friendship with a man named Matlub Karim. Matlub and Naina had been classmates. They had known each other for years. They were also fellow Congress Party workers, which meant they saw each other regularly at political events and meetings. Their friendship was professional and rooted in shared political interests. But Sushil saw it as something more. He became convinced that Naina and Matlub were having an extramarital affair. This suspicion consumed him. He questioned Naina about her interactions with Matlub. He demanded she stop speaking with him. He accused her of betraying their marriage. Naina denied having a romantic relationship with Matlub. She insisted they were just friends and colleagues. But Sushil refused to believe her. His jealousy grew more intense over time. He began monitoring her phone calls. He would check to see who she was talking to. He became obsessed with catching her in what he believed was a lie. The tension in their marriage reached a breaking point. Arguments became more frequent and more heated. Friends and family members noticed the strain, though many did not realize just how dangerous the situation had become. On the night of July 2nd, 1995, Sushil came home to find Naina talking on the phone and drinking alcohol. When Naina saw Sushil walk in, she quickly hung up the phone. This immediately aroused Sushil's suspicion. Why had she hung up so quickly? Who had she been talking to? What was she hiding? Sushil's jealousy and anger flared. He walked over to the phone and hit the redial button to see who Naina had been speaking with. The person who answered on the other end was Matlub Karim. This confirmation of Sushil's worst suspicions sent him into a rage. In his mind, this was proof that Naina had been lying to him. This was proof that she was having an affair with Matlub. All the suspicion, all the jealousy, all the resentment he had been carrying for months or possibly years came to the surface in that moment. He confronted Naina. They argued. The argument escalated quickly. Sushil was armed with a gun. In a moment of rage and jealousy, he shot Naina. The bullet struck her, and she fell. Sushil had just murdered his wife. What happened next shows the level of premeditation and calculation that followed the initial act of violence. Sushil now had a dead body in his home. He needed to dispose of it in a way that would prevent anyone from discovering what he had done. He could not simply leave Naina's body where it was. He could not call the police and claim it was an accident or self-defense. He had shot her during an argument over his jealousy. There were no witnesses to support any claim of justification. He had to make the body disappear. Sushil owned or had connections to a restaurant called Bagia. This restaurant had a tandoor, which is a traditional cylindrical clay oven used in Indian cooking to make bread like naan and to cook meat dishes like tandoori chicken. Tandoors reach extremely high temperatures, sometimes over 900 degrees Fahrenheit or nearly 500 degrees Celsius. These ovens are large enough to fit substantial pieces of meat. Sushil realized that he could use the tandoor to burn Naina's body and destroy the evidence of his crime. Sushil wrapped or placed Naina's body in a way that he could transport it without attracting attention. He took the body to the Bagia restaurant. At the restaurant, he enlisted the help of the restaurant manager, a man named Keshav Kumar. Whether Keshav understood what was happening immediately or whether Sushil manipulated or coerced him into helping is not entirely clear from the available information. What is clear is that Keshav became involved in the disposal of the body. Together, Sushil and Keshav put Naina's body into the tandoor. They turned on the oven and attempted to burn her remains. The smell of burning flesh is distinct and unmistakable. It is acrid, nauseating, and immediately recognizable as something wrong. As Nina's body burned in the tandoor, the smell began to spread. People in the area noticed it. Some may have initially thought it was just food burning or some kind of trash being disposed of improperly, but the smell was too strong and too disturbing to ignore. Someone became suspicious enough to alert the authorities. Police were called to the scene. When they arrived at the Bagia restaurant, they discovered the horrifying truth. Inside the tandoor, they found the partially burned remains of a human body. This was not food. This was a person. The discovery sent shockwaves through the police department and through the community. Who was this victim? Who had done this? And why had someone tried to burn a body in a restaurant's cooking oven? Police immediately arrested Keshav Kumar, the restaurant manager. He was at the scene and had clearly been involved in the disposal of the body. Under interrogation, Keshav provided information about what had happened. He told police that Sushil Sharma had brought the body to the restaurant. He explained how they had placed it in the tandoor. Keshav's testimony was crucial in identifying Sushil as the primary suspect. However, by the time police went to arrest Sushil, he had fled. He knew that once the body was discovered, it would only be a matter of time before investigators came for him. He went into hiding. For 8 days, Sushil evaded capture. Police launched a manhunt. They checked his known associates, his family members, and places he might go. The media picked up the story, and it quickly became a sensation. The details were too shocking to ignore. A political leader had allegedly murdered his wife and tried to burn her body in a tandoor. The case had everything the media loved: politics, murder, jealousy, and a bizarre method of disposal. Newspapers ran front-page stories. Television news programs covered the case extensively. The tandoor murder became the talk of India. On July 10, 1995, Sushil Sharma surrendered to police. He turned himself in rather than continuing to run. Perhaps he realized he could not stay hidden forever. Perhaps his lawyers advised him that surrendering would look better than being caught. Whatever his reasoning, he gave himself up and was taken into custody. He was formally charged with the murder of Naina Sani. The investigation that followed was complex and groundbreaking. This case became one of the first major criminal cases in India to make extensive use of DNA evidence. The body found in the tandoor was badly burned. Large portions had been destroyed by the extreme heat. Identifying the victim through traditional means like facial recognition or fingerprints was impossible. The body was too damaged. Investigators needed to use forensic science to definitively prove that the remains belonged to Naina Sani. DNA testing was still relatively new in India in 1995. The technology existed, but it was not yet routinely used in criminal investigations. Forensic experts collected samples from the burned remains. They also collected DNA samples from Naina's family members for comparison. The testing confirmed that the body in the tandoor was indeed Naina Sani. This was a crucial piece of evidence. Without DNA confirmation, the prosecution's case would have been much weaker. The case also became notable for the autopsy process and how the cause of death was determined. The first autopsy was conducted at Lady Hardinge Medical College in Delhi. The initial examination concluded that the cause of death was burn injuries. The doctors who performed the first autopsy believed that Naina had been burned alive or had died as a result of the burning process. This finding suggested that perhaps Naina had been placed in the tandoor while still alive, which would have been an even more horrific crime. However, questions were raised about this conclusion. The Lieutenant Governor of Delhi ordered a second autopsy to be conducted by a different team of doctors. This second autopsy was headed by a respected forensic expert named T.D. Dogra. Dr. Dogra and his team conducted a thorough re-examination of the remains. During this second autopsy, they made a critical discovery. They found 2 bullets lodged in the head and neck region of the body. This changed everything. The presence of bullets proved that Naina had been shot before her body was placed in the tandoor. She had not been burned alive. she had been killed by gunshot wounds, and then her body had been burned in an attempt to destroy evidence. This finding completely changed the direction of the investigation. The cause of death was now determined to be firearm injuries, not burn injuries. This distinction was important for understanding what had actually happened and for building the prosecution's case against Sushil Sharma. The second autopsy became a landmark case in Indian forensic medicine. It demonstrated the importance of thorough forensic examination and the value of seeking second opinions when initial findings are questionable. Dr. Dogra's work on this case is still cited in forensic science education in India. The case showed that even when a body is badly damaged, skilled forensic experts can still uncover crucial evidence that reveals the truth. Delhi police investigated the case thoroughly and filed a charges sheet on July 27, 1995, in a sessions court. A charges sheet is the formal document that outlines the charges against an accused person and presents the evidence supporting those charges. The charges sheet against Sushil Sharma detailed the events of July 2nd, the murder of Naina, the disposal of her body, and the evidence linking Sharma to the crime. Keshav Kumar was also charged for his role in helping to dispose of the body. The trial took place in the Sessions Court in Delhi. The proceedings were closely watched by the media and the public. The prosecution presented a strong case. They had Keshav Kumar's testimony placing Sushil at the scene. They had the DNA evidence identifying the victim as Naina. They had the forensic evidence showing she had been shot. They had evidence of Sushil's jealousy and his suspicions about Naina's relationship with Matlub Karim. They had the fact that Sushil had fled after the murder. All of this added up to a compelling case of premeditated murder. On November 7, 2003, the trial court delivered its verdict. Sushil Sharma was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to death. The death penalty is reserved for the rarest of rare cases in India, and the court determined that this case met that standard. The brutal nature of the killing, the attempt to destroy the body, and the lack of remorse shown by Sharma all contributed to the decision to impose capital punishment. Keshav Kumar, the restaurant manager who had helped dispose of the body, was sentenced to 7 years of rigorous imprisonment. Rigorous imprisonment is a form of hard labor where prisoners are required to work while serving their sentence. Sushil Sharma appealed the trial court's decision to the Delhi High Court. In India, the legal system allows for appeals to higher courts when a defendant believes there has been an error in the trial or in the application of the law. Sharma's lawyers argued that the death penalty was too harsh and that there were mitigating factors that should be considered. However, in 2007, the Delhi High Court upheld the lower court's decision. The High Court agreed that Sharma was guilty of murder and that the death penalty was appropriate given the circumstances of the case. Sharma then appealed to the Supreme Court of India, which is the highest court in the country and the final authority on legal matters. The Supreme Court took several years to consider the case. During this time, Sharma remained in prison, awaiting the outcome of his final appeal. The question before the Supreme Court was whether the death penalty was justified or whether it should be commuted to life imprisonment. On October 8, 2013, a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court delivered its decision. The bench was composed of Chief Justice P. Sathasivam and Justices Ranjana Desai and Ranjan Gogoi. The court upheld Sharma's conviction for murder. There was no question about his guilt. The evidence was overwhelming. However, the court decided to commute his death sentence to life imprisonment. The reasoning behind this decision was significant. The Supreme Court stated that there was no evidence that Sharma had chopped his wife's body into pieces. While he had burned her body in the tandoor, he had not dismembered it beforehand. The court also noted that Sharma did not have a criminal record prior to this incident. He had no history of violence or criminal behavior. This was not a repeat offender or a habitual criminal. Additionally, the court determined that this was not a crime against society as a whole. This was a crime committed due to a strained personal relationship between husband and wife. It was a domestic crime motivated by jealousy and suspicion, not a crime that threatened the public at large. These factors led the Supreme Court to conclude that while Sharma deserved severe punishment, the death penalty was not appropriate. Life imprisonment was sufficient. This decision was controversial. Many people felt that the brutal nature of the crime, particularly the attempt to burn the body in a tandoor, warranted the death penalty. Others agreed with the Supreme Court that life imprisonment was appropriate given the circumstances. Sushil Sharma remained in prison, serving his life sentence. In India, life imprisonment typically means imprisonment for the rest of a person's natural life. But prisoners can apply for early release after serving a certain number of years, usually 14 to 20 years, depending on various factors, including good behavior and remission policies. Sharma had been in prison since July 1995, when he surrendered to police. On December 21, 2018, the Delhi High Court ordered the immediate release of Sushil Sharma. He had spent nearly 23 years in prison. The court determined that he had served sufficient time given the sentencing guidelines and remission policies applicable to his case. Sharma walked out of Tihar Jail, one of the largest prison complexes in South Asia, in December 2018. He was a free man for the first time in over 2 decades. His release was met with mixed reactions. Some people believed that 23 years was sufficient punishment for his crime and that he deserved a second chance to rebuild his life. Others, particularly those who remembered the case and the brutality of what he had done to Naina, felt that he should have remained in prison for the rest of his life. Naina's family and friends were devastated by the news of his release. They felt that justice had not been fully served. The immediate aftermath of the murder had been traumatic for everyone involved. Naina's family had to cope with the loss of their daughter in the most horrible circumstances imaginable. They had to endure the media circus that surrounded the case. They had to sit through trials and hearings where the details of Naina's death were discussed repeatedly. The discovery of her body in a tandoor was a detail that shocked the nation and brought shame and horror to her family. For Matlub Karim, the man whose phone call had triggered Sushil's rage, the case was also traumatic. He had been friends with Naina, and now she was dead because of Sushil's jealousy. Matlub had done nothing wrong. He and Naina had been friends and colleagues, but Sushil's unfounded suspicions and violent reaction had cost Naina her life. Matlub had to live with the knowledge that his friendship with Naina had been used as justification for murder, even though there was no romantic relationship between them. Keshav Kumar, the restaurant manager who helped dispose of the body, served his 7-year sentence and was released. His involvement in the case destroyed his life. He lost his job, his reputation, and years of his freedom. Whether he was coerced into helping Sushil or whether he willingly participated is still a matter of some debate. What is clear is that his decision to help Sushil that night cost him dearly. The long-term repercussions of the Tandoor murder case extended far beyond the individuals directly involved. The case became a symbol of domestic violence and the dangers of jealousy and possessiveness in relationships. It highlighted how quickly a marriage can turn deadly when one partner becomes obsessed with controlling the other. Naina had been living with a man who monitored her phone calls, questioned her friendships, and ultimately killed her over a phone conversation with a colleague. The case also brought attention to the issue of crimes of passion and how Indian society and the legal system deal with them. In many cultures, including India, there is sometimes a tendency to view crimes motivated by jealousy or suspicion of infidelity with some degree of understanding or leniency. The idea that a man might lose control and harm his wife if he suspects her of cheating is sometimes treated as understandable, even if not justified. The Tandoor murder case challenged this notion. The brutality of the crime and the calculated way Sushil tried to destroy evidence made it impossible to view this as a simple crime of passion. This was murder, followed by a deliberate attempt to cover it up. The case also had implications for forensic science in India. The use of DNA evidence to identify the victim and the importance of the second autopsy in determining the true cause of death became teaching moments for the forensic community. The case is still studied in medical schools and forensic science programs as an example of how thorough investigation and advanced scientific techniques can uncover the truth, even in the most difficult circumstances. The Tandoor murder case became part of popular culture in India. It was discussed in newspapers, magazines, and television programs for years. Books were written about it. The case was referenced in films and television shows. The image of a body being burned in a tandoor became seared into the public consciousness. Even decades later, when people in India hear the phrase tandoor murder, they immediately know what case is being referenced. For the restaurant industry in India, particularly in Delhi, the case had a chilling effect. Tandoors are essential equipment in many Indian restaurants. They are used daily to cook bread and meat dishes. But after this case, the image of a tandoor was forever associated with something horrific. The Bhagia restaurant where the crime took place was closed, and the building was eventually torn down or repurposed. No one wanted to eat at the restaurant where a woman's body had been burned. The case also raised questions about the role of political connections and power in shielding criminals. Sushil Sharma was a political leader with connections to powerful people in the Congress Party. Some people wondered whether those connections helped him in any way during the investigation or trial. While there is no evidence that political influence affected the outcome of the case, the mere perception that a politically connected person might receive preferential treatment damaged public trust in the justice system. The release of Sushil Sharma in 2018 reignited all of these discussions. People debated whether 23 years was enough punishment for such a brutal crime. They discussed whether someone who commits such a horrific act can ever be truly rehabilitated. They questioned whether the justice system had failed Naina Sani by allowing her killer to eventually walk free. Naina Sani was 29 years old when she died. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was intelligent, politically engaged, and committed to her work. She deserved to live a full life. Instead, she was killed by a man who claimed to love her, but who could not control his jealousy and rage. Her death was senseless and tragic. She died because her husband made a phone call, discovered she had been talking to a friend, and decided that this justified taking her life. The Tandoor murder case stands as one of the most infamous criminal cases in modern Indian history. It combined elements of domestic violence, political intrigue, forensic innovation, and shocking brutality. It captured the nation's attention and held it for years. The case forced India to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence, the limits of the death penalty, and the question of whether some crimes are so heinous that no amount of time served can truly constitute justice. Nearly 3 decades after Naina Sani's death, these questions remain unanswered. The case continues to be remembered not just for its shocking details, but for what it revealed about the darkest aspects of human relationships and the capacity for violence that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly normal lives. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Fang Ai Loi and Quan Sin Cheng case, Singapore, 1996. On the night of October 4th, 1996, Koh Meng Hock sat waiting in a car park on Yung Kwang Road in Singapore. He was there to meet his girlfriend. She had told him someone wanted to return some money to her. Koh was 31 years old and worked as a driver. He had been dating his girlfriend for about a year. They were planning to get married later that month. As he waited, he heard screaming. He looked up and saw his girlfriend being attacked by a man with a knife. Koh ran toward them and threw a punch at the attacker. The man fled. Koh rushed to his girlfriend's side. She had been stabbed 14 times. Her name was Fang Ai Loi. She was 23 years old. She died there in the car park. The man who stabbed Fang was her ex-boyfriend. His name was Quan Sin Cheng. He was 29 years old. After stabbing Fang, Quan ran to a nearby building. He wanted to kill himself. He went to the roof and considered jumping, but he was too afraid. He tried to hang himself, but that did not work either. Police responded quickly to reports of the stabbing. About 70 officers were deployed to search for Kwan. They eventually found him hiding inside a water tank on top of one of the housing blocks. He had slit his wrists in a third suicide attempt. That attempt also failed. A policewoman talked to Kwan and convinced him to surrender. He agreed, though he was stuck inside the tank and needed help getting out. The police arrested him. They also recovered the knife he had used. According to the forensic pathologist Dr. Wee Keng Po, 7 of the 14 stab wounds were fatal. These wounds were between 8 and 10 centimeters deep. Some had pierced Fang's back and chest. The next day, October 5th, Kwan was charged with murder under Section 302 of the Penal Code. In Singapore, murder carried only one punishment, the death penalty. Kwan was remanded while police continued their investigation and prepared for trial. Kwan Sin Cheng was born in 1967 in Ayer Tawar, a town in Perak, Malaysia. He had one brother. He worked as a plasterer at construction sites. In 1988, when he was 21 years old, he met Fang Ai Lui. She was only 15 at the time, and still a student. They fell in love. The following year, Fang became pregnant. Kwan and Fang wanted to get married, but Fang's father disapproved of the relationship. He did not like Kwan. Fang had to have an abortion. The couple broke up because of her father's opposition. In 1992, Kwan and Fang got back together. By then, Fang had completed her Malaysian A-levels. They both moved to Singapore to find work. Fang settled in Yishun. A year later, in 1993, she became pregnant again. This time, her sister paid for the abortion and told Kwan to stay away from Fang, but the couple did not break up. Fang became pregnant a third time and had another abortion. Despite all this, their relationship remained strong. Fang eventually became a Singapore permanent resident while working there. In July 1995, Fang changed jobs. She started working as a clerk. That is when she met Ko Meng Hock, the driver. Over the next few weeks, Fang and Ko grew closer. A month after they met, Fang started dating Ko. But she did not break up with Kwan. She was seeing both men at the same time. Fang and Kwan continued to have sex regularly until September 1996. For more than a year, Fang maintained both relationships without telling Kwan about Ko. Eventually, Fang decided she wanted to end things with Kwan. She told him she wanted to break up. Kwan was shocked and devastated. He still loved her deeply and did not want the relationship to end. They had been together, on and off, for 8 years. Fang and Ko were already making plans to marry each other in October 1996. On the night of October 4th, Kwan was in despair. He could not accept that Fang wanted to leave him. He went to a supermarket and bought 2 knives. He was thinking about killing himself. But part of him still hoped Fang would change her mind. He decided he would threaten to commit suicide in front of her. Maybe that would make her come back to him. He contacted Fang and told her he needed to meet her to return some money. She agreed. They met at the car park below Kwan's flat in Yung Kwang Road. Ko came with her and waited nearby. When Kwan saw Fang, he showed her the knife and threatened to kill himself. He begged her to come back to him. Fang remained indifferent. She told him she would not go back to him. She said she was going to marry Ko. Then she insulted Kwan. She called him a good-for-nothing. She said she never cared about his life. She said she did not care whether he lived or died. She told him she was much happier with Ko. These words broke something inside Kwan. He had loved Fang for 8 years. He had stayed with her through 3 abortions and her family's disapproval. And now she was telling him she never cared about him at all. Kwan lost control. He attacked Fang with the knife. He stabbed her 14 times. The attack was frenzied and violent. When police later recovered the knife, it was twisted and bent from the force Kwan had used. Ko witnessed the entire attack. He tried to stop it but could not. Ko had not known about Kwan. He had not known that Fang was still involved with her ex-boyfriend while dating him. He learned about their relationship only after reading about it in the newspaper following the murder. It is not known how Ko reacted to the news of Fang's unfaithfulness. On April 11, 1997, 6 months after Fang's death, Quan Sin Cheng went on trial for murder at the High Court. He was represented by 2 defense lawyers, Chua Eng Hui and Liu Cheng Suan. The prosecution team consisted of Christina Ko and Jasbinder Kaur. The trial was presided over by Judicial Commissioner Amarjit Singh. The defense did not deny that Quan had killed Fang. Instead, they argued that he had acted under sudden and grave provocation. They said Quan should be convicted of manslaughter, not murder. The difference was critical. Murder carried the mandatory death penalty. Manslaughter carried either life imprisonment or up to 10 years in jail. Quan testified about what happened that night. He explained that he had gone to the car park planning to threaten suicide, not to kill Fang. He brought the knife to use on himself, not on her. He still loved her and hoped she would change her mind. But when Fang told him she never cared about him and was happy with another man, Quan snapped. He lost all rationality and self-control. He attacked Fang in a moment of uncontrollable rage. The defense lawyers told the court that Quan was a mild-mannered and even-tempered man. They emphasized the long and intimate relationship he had shared with Fang. They argued that after 8 years together, after standing by her through 3 pregnancies and abortions, after facing her family's disapproval together, Fang's words were deeply provocative. They said any reasonable person in Quan's position would have lost control. The defense also pointed to Quan's multiple suicide attempts after the killing. These showed he never intended to murder Fang. If he had planned to kill her, why would he then try so hard to kill himself? The prosecution disagreed. They argued that Quan and Fang were not married. Fang had already expressed her desire to break up before that night. She had every right to move on with her life. The prosecution said Quan should have accepted the breakup and moved on. They argued that Fang's verbal remarks, while perhaps hurtful, were not sufficient provocation to justify murder. They tried to portray Quan as a cold-hearted killer with a bad temper who had planned the attack. On April 25, 1997, Judicial Commissioner Amarjit Singh delivered his verdict. He accepted Quan's defense of sudden and grave provocation. The judge found Quan to be a credible witness. He believed Quan had never planned to commit murder. He accepted that Quan had brought the knife to the car park to threaten suicide, not to harm Fang. The judge found that Fang's words, spoken in response to Quan's suicide threat, were sufficiently grave and sudden to cause Quan to lose self-control. Given the deep and intimate relationship the couple had shared for 8 years, a relationship comparable to marriage, the judge found it reasonable that Quan reacted the way he did. The judge concluded that Quan had killed Fang in a spontaneous moment of uncontrollable anger caused by her provocation. Therefore, Judicial Commissioner Singh acquitted Quan of murder. By being acquitted of murder, Quan escaped the death penalty. However, the judge found Quan guilty of the lesser offense of culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. In Singapore, this is called manslaughter. The judge sentenced Quan to 10 years in prison. Quan, who had turned 30 during the trial, broke down in tears when he heard the verdict. He was relieved. Prison officers escorted him from the courtroom. Quan's mother, who was 57 years old, was also relieved that her son would not be executed. But she told reporters that her son still had to face the consequences for what he had done. Quan's lawyer, Chua Eng Hui, commented that his client had paid a very heavy price for killing the person he loved dearly. He said Quan would have to live with that fact for the rest of his life. Fang's 24-year-old sister was in court to hear the verdict. She was devastated. She left the courtroom in tears and refused to speak to reporters. A month after the sentencing, in May 1997, newspapers interviewed psychiatrists and counselors about crimes of passion. These cases were becoming more common in Singapore. Crimes of passion involved people killing their spouses, lovers, or others close to them in moments of uncontrollable emotion. The experts explained that these murders were not premeditated or cold-blooded. They happened spontaneously when someone lost self-control. Kwan's case was cited as a recent example. Experts said Kwan had been triggered by Fang's words. He had not planned to kill her. The murder was driven by emotion, hurt, and possessiveness, not by any calculated intent to commit a crime. But the prosecution was not satisfied with Kwan's sentence. They believed he should have been convicted of murder and hanged. On January 19, 1998, the prosecution appealed Kwan's conviction to the Court of Appeal. The prosecution team, now led by Francis Tsang, along with Jasbender Kaur and Christina Ko, argued that the trial judge had been wrong to accept the defense of sudden and grave provocation. They wanted Kwan convicted of murder and sentenced to death. The Court of Appeal consisted of 3 judges: Chief Justice Yong Pung Hao, Judge of Appeal L.P. Thean, and Judge of Appeal M. Karthagezu. After hearing the appeal, the 3 judges quickly reached a decision. Chief Justice Yong announced the verdict in court. The Court of Appeal unanimously rejected the prosecution's appeal. The 3 judges agreed with the trial judge that Kwan's defense of sudden and grave provocation should be accepted. They found that Kwan and Fang's relationship had evolved into a de facto husband-wife relationship over their 8 years together. Given this context, Fang's insults and malicious words had a grave and extremely provocative impact on Kwan. The appellate judges ruled that a reasonable person in Kwan's position would have lost self-control and been overwhelmed with anger. Therefore, Kwan's manslaughter conviction was correct. He should not be convicted of murder. However, the Court of Appeal did not stop there. Even though neither the prosecution nor the defense had appealed against Kwan's sentence, the appellate judges decided to review it on their own. They concluded that 10 years in prison was manifestly inadequate. They considered the extreme violence Kwan had inflicted on a defenseless woman. They considered the grievousness of his outburst. They considered his deplorable conduct. The court felt 10 years was too lenient. Therefore, they increased Kwan's sentence from 10 years to life imprisonment. This was the maximum punishment allowed for manslaughter under Singapore law. Kwan's brother and Fang's father were both present in court when the verdict was announced. There was an important technical detail about the life sentence. In August 1997, a landmark appeal case had changed the legal definition of life imprisonment in Singapore. Before that case, life imprisonment meant 20 years in jail. After that case, life imprisonment meant the remainder of the convict's natural lifespan. However, the new definition only applied to crimes committed after August 20, 1997. Since Kwan committed manslaughter on October 4, 1996, his life sentence was calculated under the old rules. For him, life imprisonment meant 20 years. More than a week after the Court of Appeal's decision, Kwan's mother spoke to the press. She introduced herself as Madam Ting. She said her son had done a very stupid thing. She said he should have simply ended the relationship when Fang fell in love with another man. Madam Ting had never met Fang's parents, even though they lived only 2 streets away. She said that unlike Fang's parents, she had wanted her son and Fang to get married. Madam Ting also said she understood why her son had killed Fang. She said Fang's remarks about loving Ko and not caring whether Kwan lived or died must have been so provocative and hurtful that they caused her son to lose his sanity and murder Fang in an uncontrollable rage. Fang's parents had told the press they never really knew Kwan. They said they had hoped Kwan would be hanged for killing their daughter. They were disappointed when he escaped execution. The prosecution's appeal in Kwan's case became a landmark in Singapore's legal history. The Court of Appeal's ruling clarified important points about the defense of sudden and grave provocation. The court stated that even verbal remarks could amount to grave and sudden provocation, depending on the mental background of the defendant. The court emphasized that the defense should be accepted when a person committed murder while genuinely under a loss of self-control caused by sudden and grave provocation. In such cases, the person should be convicted of manslaughter, not murder. However, The court also made clear that this defense was not available to people who were normally bad-tempered or violent. The test was whether a normal, reasonable person would have lost self-control in the face of the alleged provocation. If so, the defense could succeed. If not, it should fail. The ruling in Kwan's case set a precedent. It was cited in later cases where defendants claimed they had killed someone due to sudden and grave provocation. Some of these defendants succeeded with the defense. Others did not. The outcome depended on the specific circumstances of each case. In April 1998, the case was featured on Crime Watch, a popular Singaporean crime show. The program reenacted Fang's death for its viewers. Kwan served his full sentence. Under the old definition of life imprisonment, this meant 20 years. He would have been released around 2016. Since then, he has been a free man. His current whereabouts and circumstances are unknown. The case of Fang Ai Loi and Kwan Sin Chung remains one of the most discussed crimes of passion in Singapore's history. To some, Kwan was a man who loved deeply and was pushed beyond his limits by cruel words from the woman he had devoted 8 years of his life to. To others, Kwan was a possessive man who could not accept that his girlfriend had moved on, and who chose violence when he could not control her. The case illustrates the fine line between murder and manslaughter in Singapore law. It shows how provocation, self-control, and reasonable behavior are judged by the courts, and it demonstrates the terrible consequences when love turns to rage. What is certain is this: on October 4, 1996, in a car park in Singapore, 29-year-old Kwan Sin Cheng stabbed his ex-girlfriend, Fang Ai Loi, 14 times with a knife. Fang was 23 years old. She died at the scene. Her new boyfriend, Ko Mang Hock, witnessed the attack. Kwan tried 3 times to kill himself afterward but failed each time. He was arrested and charged with murder. At trial, he was acquitted of murder but convicted of manslaughter. He was initially sentenced to 10 years, but the Court of Appeal increased this to life imprisonment, which in his case meant 20 years. He served his full sentence and was released around 2016. Fang's family never got the justice they wanted. Kwan's family watched their son go to prison for 2 decades, and the case became a landmark that changed how Singapore's courts assess claims of sudden and grave provocation in murder cases. More than 25 years later, the case continues to be studied in law schools and discussed whenever crimes of passion occur in Singapore. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Next, the Shraddha Walkar and Aftab Amin Poonawalla case, India, 2022. In May 2022, Aftab strangled his live-in partner Shraddha and then dismembered her body into 17 pieces. He stored these pieces in a refrigerator he bought specifically for this purpose and disposed of them over several weeks while simultaneously dating a new woman he met on a dating app. The crime didn't come to light until November 2022, 6 months after the murder, when Shraddha's father filed a missing person complaint. What investigators discovered was a nightmare that seemed too horrific to be real. To understand how this happened, you need to understand who Shraddha and Aftab were and how their relationship began. Shraddha Walkar was 26 years old and worked in the call center industry in Mumbai. She came from a traditional Hindu family in Mumbai. Aftab Amin Poonawalla was 28 years old and came from a Muslim family. The two met while working together and eventually fell in love. Their relationship was opposed by both families, particularly Shraddha's father, Vikas Walkar, who strongly disapproved of the interfaith relationship. Despite her family's objections, Shraddha chose to stay with Aftab. She moved in with him, which effectively cut her off from her family and support system. She was living against the will of her father and brother, and because of this, she stopped maintaining regular contact with them. The couple initially lived together in Mumbai, but their relationship was far from peaceful. According to friends and the later investigation, Aftab was controlling and violent. He would beat Shraddha mercilessly over petty issues. He would strangle her almost to death during fights. Shraddha lived in constant fear of being killed or severely beaten. She had no one to turn to because she had isolated herself from her family by choosing to be with Aftab. The only person she confided in was her school friend Laksumanun Nadar, with whom she would occasionally share details of her tragic life. The charge sheet filed by Delhi police painted a picture of a woman trapped in an abusive relationship with no way out and no support system to help her escape. In 2022, the couple decided to move from Mumbai to Delhi. This move further isolated Shraddha from anyone who might have been able to help her. They rented a flat in Chhatarpur Pahari, a neighborhood in South Delhi. The new environment did nothing to improve their relationship. In fact, it may have made things worse. Aftab continued to have relationships with other women. According to the charges sheet, he had girlfriends all the way from Delhi to Dubai. Shraddha and Aftab had constant arguments about expenses in Delhi and about the women Aftab was involved with. The tension in the relationship was building to a breaking point. On the evening of May 18, 2022, that breaking point arrived. Aftab and Shraddha had another argument. This time, the argument turned deadly. Aftab strangled Shraddha to death in their rented flat. After killing her, he closed the main door of the house. Then he went out to purchase the tools he would need for what came next. He bought a saw, 3 blades, a hammer, and plastic clips. He returned to the flat and began the gruesome work of dismembering Shraddha's body. Aftab's actions after the murder were methodical and chilling. On the same day he killed Shraddha, he cut off her wrists and placed them in a polythene bag. He kept this bag in the lower cabinet of the kitchen. Over the next 4 to 5 days, he systematically cut Shraddha's body into 17 pieces. According to his own disclosure statement quoted in the charges sheet, he cut each arm into 3 pieces, making 6 pieces total. He cut each leg into 3 pieces, making another 6 pieces. He separated the head, torso, and pelvis into 2 pieces. He even cut off her thumb separately. The level of planning and the cold, calculated manner in which he carried out this dismemberment suggested this was not a crime of passion, but something he had thought through. On May 19th, the day after the murder, Aftab purchased a refrigerator. This refrigerator was specifically bought to store Shraddha's body parts. He placed all 17 pieces inside this fridge in his flat. Over the next several weeks, he would dispose of these body parts piece by piece, taking them out late at night and dumping them in various locations. He was careful to spread out the disposal so as not to attract attention. The body parts were scattered across different areas, making it nearly impossible for investigators to recover all of them later. But while Shraddha's dismembered body was sitting in his refrigerator, Aftab was already moving on with his life. On May 24th, just 6 days after murdering Shraddha, he downloaded the dating app Bumble and matched with a new woman. They became friends quickly. On May 25th, she visited his flat for the first time. She had no idea that just a few feet away, in the refrigerator Aftab had bought less than a week earlier, were the remains of his murdered girlfriend. Aftab even gave this new woman a gift. It was a silver ring. He had removed this ring from Shraddha's body after killing her. The woman accepted the ring, not knowing its horrific origin. Investigators would later recover this ring from her. The woman started visiting Aftab's flat regularly. Sometimes she would even stay overnight. Whenever she was there, Aftab would have to move Shraddha's body parts. He would take them out of the refrigerator and hide them in the wooden cabinets in the kitchen. He would clean the refrigerator thoroughly to remove any traces or smells. Then, once the woman left, he would move the body parts back into the fridge. Investigators found bloodstains on both the upper and lower shelves of the wooden kitchen cabinet. DNA testing confirmed that the blood on the upper shelf matched Shraddha's father, Vikas Walkar's DNA, meaning it was Shraddha's blood. The blood on the lower shelf matched both Aftab and Shraddha. The cabinets had become temporary storage for the remains whenever Aftab needed to hide them from his new girlfriend. While all of this was happening, Aftab was also working to create an alibi. He wanted everyone to believe that Shraddha had simply left him and moved on with her life. He kept both his phone and Shraddha's phone with him. He would send messages from Shraddha's phone to make it seem like she was still alive and communicating. He even impersonated Shraddha on her Bumble account, chatting with people as if he were her. He told people that Shraddha had moved out of the flat and left him. However, investigators were able to prove this was a lie by tracking the GPS locations of both phones. The location data showed that Shraddha's phone was always in the same place as Aftab's phone after May 18th. Her phone never moved independently, which would have been impossible if she were actually alive and using it. Aftab also took steps to destroy evidence that could link Shraddha to him. He threw away her phone, debit cards, credit cards, and personal documents. He didn't just throw them away carelessly. He damaged them and then threw them into Bayandar Creek in Mumbai. He specifically chose this location because he had done his schooling in that area and knew the depth of the creek. He knew the items would sink and likely never be recovered. He later admitted in his disclosure statement that he lied about Shraddha's phone being lost on a train. He had deliberately destroyed it to cover his tracks. Months went by. Shraddha's father, Vikas, became increasingly worried. He hadn't heard from his daughter in a long time. Despite their strained relationship, he still cared about her safety. In November 2022, he filed a missing person complaint with the Mumbai police. This complaint would set in motion the investigation that would eventually uncover the truth. The Mumbai police contacted the Delhi police, and on November 12, 2022, Aftab was arrested. The reason for his arrest was initially financial. Investigators noticed suspicious bank transactions. On May 18th, the day of the murder, there was a transaction of 54,000 rupees from Shraddha's bank account to Aftab's account. Then on June 7th, there was a transaction of 6,000 rupees from Aftab's account back to Shraddha's account. Aftab couldn't explain these transactions in a way that made sense. If Shraddha had really left him and moved on, why would such large sums of money be moving between their accounts, especially after she had supposedly left? Under interrogation, Aftab's story began to fall apart. He eventually confessed to killing Shraddha and dismembering her body. He walked investigators through what he had done, step by step. The details he provided were so horrific that even seasoned police officers were shocked. He explained how he had cut her body into 17 pieces, how he had stored them in the refrigerator, and how he had disposed of them piece by piece over several weeks. He admitted to continuing to date other women while Shraddha's remains were still in his flat. He admitted to moving the body parts around whenever his new girlfriend visited. He admitted to using Shraddha's phone to create the illusion that she was still alive. The investigation moved quickly after Aftab's confession. Police searched his flat in Chhatarpur Pahari and found blood evidence in the kitchen cabinets. They combed through the areas where Aftab claimed to have disposed of the body parts. Though the scattered nature of the disposal and the time that had passed made recovering all of the remains nearly impossible. They interviewed the woman Aftab had been dating and recovered the silver ring he had given her. They analyzed phone records, bank transactions, GPS data, and social media activity. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. Aftab had murdered Shraddha, dismembered her body, and then tried to erase all evidence of her existence while carrying on with his life as if nothing had happened. On January 24, 2023, Delhi police filed a 6,629-page charge sheet against Aftab Amin Poonawalla. The charge sheet detailed every aspect of the crime, from the history of abuse in the relationship to the methodical way Aftab had dismembered and disposed of Shraddha's body. It included his disclosure statements, forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and digital evidence. On the day the charge sheet was presented, there was heavy security at the Saket court in Delhi. Police combed the premises with a dog squad. Media was kept out of the closed-door hearing. Metropolitan Magistrate Aviral Shukla took cognizance of the charge sheet and listed the matter for hearing on February 21st. The immediate aftermath of the case sent shockwaves through India. The brutality of the crime, the calculated manner in which Aftab had carried it out, and the length of time he had managed to hide it all combined to create a story that dominated news headlines for weeks. People were horrified by the idea that Aftab had been living normally, dating a new woman, and even hosting her in the same flat where he had stored his murdered girlfriend's body. The case sparked widespread discussions about domestic violence, the dangers of isolating oneself from family and support systems, and the warning signs of abusive relationships. For Shraddha's family, the pain was unimaginable. Not only had they lost their daughter, but they had lost her in the most horrific way possible. Vikas Walkar, who had opposed Shraddha's relationship with Aftab from the beginning, was now left to grapple with the knowledge that his worst fears had come true. He had tried to protect his daughter, but she had chosen to stay with Aftab despite the abuse. Now she was gone, and her body had been treated with such disrespect and brutality that it was difficult to comprehend. The family had to endure not just the grief of losing Shraddha, but also the graphic details of her murder being discussed in media and court proceedings. The case also raised questions about how domestic violence is handled in India. Shraddha had confided in her friend about the abuse she was suffering, but she never filed a police complaint. She had no support system because she had cut herself off from her family. Even if she had wanted to leave Aftab, she may have felt she had nowhere to go. The case highlighted the importance of maintaining connections with family and friends, even when in a relationship, and the critical need for women in abusive relationships to have access to resources and support that can help them escape safely. The long-term repercussions of this case are still unfolding. Aftab Amin Poonawalla is currently in judicial custody awaiting trial. If convicted, he faces the possibility of life imprisonment or even the death penalty, depending on how the court views the severity and premeditation of the crime. The evidence against him is overwhelming. His own confession, the forensic evidence, the digital trail, and the testimony of witnesses all point to his guilt. However, the legal process in India can be lengthy, and it may be years before a final verdict is reached. The case has also led to broader discussions about the safety of women in live-in relationships and the importance of family and community oversight. While modern relationships often involve couples living together before marriage, this case has reminded people of the potential dangers when such relationships become isolated and abusive. It has prompted calls for better legal protections for women in live-in relationships, better resources for victims of domestic violence, and more awareness about the warning signs of abusive partners. For the woman Aftab was dating after Shraddha's murder, the revelation must have been traumatic beyond words. She had been intimate with a man who was simultaneously hiding the dismembered body of his previous girlfriend in his refrigerator. She had accepted a ring that had been taken from a murder victim's body. She had stayed overnight in a flat where a brutal murder had taken place just days earlier. The psychological impact of discovering all of this is difficult to imagine. The case has become one of the most infamous criminal cases in modern Indian history. It has been covered extensively in the media, analyzed by criminal psychologists, and discussed in legal circles. The sheer brutality and calculated nature of the crime, combined with Aftab's ability to carry on a normal life while hiding such a horrific secret, has made this case stand out, even in a country where tragic crimes unfortunately occur regularly. As of now, the case continues to move through the legal system. The trial will eventually determine Aftab's fate, though his guilt seems certain based on the evidence. For Shraddha's family and friends, no verdict will bring her back or erase the horror of what happened to her. The best they can hope for is justice and the knowledge that Aftab will be held accountable for his actions. The case serves as a tragic reminder of the dangers of domestic violence, the importance of maintaining support systems, and the devastating consequences when warning signs of abuse are ignored or dismissed. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Next, the Raju and Radhika Changa case, India, 2023. On the morning of November 3rd, 2023, an elderly woman disappeared from her home in Bachau town in the Kutch district of Gujarat, India. Her name was Jyoti Gala. She was 87 years old. She lived alone in a neighborhood called Mandvivas. Her two sons both lived in Mumbai, far away from Bachau. That morning, one of Gala's neighbors noticed something was wrong. The neighbor went to check on the elderly woman but could not find her. The door to her house was open, but Gala was nowhere to be seen. Concerned, the neighbor contacted the police to report her missing. Police arrived at Gala's home to investigate. They searched the house thoroughly. Nothing appeared to be missing. There were no signs of a struggle. No furniture was overturned. No belongings were scattered. There was no evidence of a robbery or a burglary. The house looked undisturbed. This puzzled the officers. If someone had broken in to steal something, there would be signs of it. If there had been a violent confrontation, there would be evidence. But everything looked normal. The only thing missing was Jyoti Gala herself. The police began gathering evidence from the area. They checked with neighbors to see if anyone had seen or heard anything unusual. They also looked for security camera footage from nearby homes. One of the neighbors had a CCTV camera installed outside their house. The footage from that camera showed something important. On the morning of November 3rd, a man was seen leaving Jyoti Gala's house. His face was covered, making it impossible to identify him, but he was pulling a dark blue trolley bag behind him. The bag looked heavy. The man moved quickly, as if he was in a hurry. The footage was clear enough to show the bag, but not clear enough to reveal who the man was. Police knew they were dealing with something serious. An elderly woman had vanished. A man with a covered face had been seen leaving her house with a large bag. The lack of any signs of robbery suggested that money or valuables were not the motive. Something else was going on. The police formed 10 teams to work on the case. They began scanning CCTV footage from all over Bachau town, trying to track where the man with the trolley bag had gone. Meanwhile, investigators started looking into who might have wanted to harm Jyoti Gala. She was an elderly woman who lived alone. She did not seem like someone who would have enemies. But someone had taken her, and the police needed to figure out who and why. What the police did not yet know was that the man who took Jyoti Gala was a 21-year-old named Raju Changa. Raju had murdered the elderly woman as part of an elaborate and bizarre plan. He needed a corpse. He wanted to fake the death of his girlfriend so the two of them could run away together without their families trying to find them. Raju Changa and his girlfriend, 22-year-old Radhika Changa, were in a relationship that their families did not approve of. Raju and Radhika belonged to the same community. They were also distant relatives. In many Indian communities, family approval for relationships is extremely important. When families disapprove, young couples often face enormous pressure to end their relationships. Some couples obey their families and break up. Others decide to elope and get married without permission. But Raju and Radhika feared that if they simply ran away, their families would search for them. They would file missing persons reports. Police would get involved. Their families might track them down and force them to come back. Raju wanted to avoid all of this, so he came up with a plan that was as horrifying as it was desperate. Raju decided to fake Radhika's death. If everyone believed Radhika was dead, no one would search for her. The families would mourn, but they would not look for her. Raju and Radhika could then leave India together and start a new life in a foreign country. But to fake Radhika's death convincingly, Raju needed a body. He needed to find a woman who was roughly the same height and build as Radhika. He would kill that woman, burn the body beyond recognition, and present it to the police as Radhika's corpse. The plan was cold and calculated. It showed a complete disregard for human life. An innocent person would have to die just so Raju and Radhika could be together. At first, Raju and Radhika tried a different approach. They went to a graveyard in Samakiyali town. They dug up a portion of the graveyard, hoping to find bones. Their plan was to pass off those bones as Radhika's remains. They would claim Radhika had died and been buried, but their search was unsuccessful. They could not find bones that would work for their plan. So they abandoned that idea and moved on to something far more sinister. They decided they needed to kill someone. Raju began searching for a suitable victim. He needed a woman who lived alone, someone who would not be immediately missed. He needed someone whose height and body type were similar to Radhika's. After searching, he identified Jyoti Gala as the perfect target. She was an elderly woman who lived by herself in Manvivas. Her 2 sons lived in Mumbai, hundreds of kilometers away. She was vulnerable and isolated. Raju decided she would be his victim. On the morning of November 3, 2023, Raju went to Jyoti Gala's home. He gained entry into the house. Once inside, he attacked the 87-year-old woman. He strangled her with his bare hands. Gala was elderly and frail. She had no chance of fighting back against a 21-year-old man. Raju killed her quickly. After she was dead, Raju packed her body into a dark blue trolley bag. He zipped it up and left the house, pulling the bag behind him. This was the moment captured on the neighbor's CCTV camera. Raju took the body to his father's office. His father, Ganesh Changa, ran a gas agency business. The office was located in a building called Vishal Complex on Custom Crossroads in Bashau town. The office was closed that day. Raju had the keys. He brought the trolley bag inside and hid it there. Then he locked up and left. He planned to return later to dispose of the body. He and Radhika intended to burn the corpse, destroy any identifying features, and then report to police that Radhika had been killed. They would say she had been murdered by an unknown attacker. After the police investigated and closed the case, assuming the body was Radhika's, Raju and Radhika would quietly leave the country and start their new life together. But Raju's plan began to fall apart almost immediately. The police were already investigating Jyoti Gala's disappearance. They were scanning CCTV footage from all over town. They were interviewing witnesses. They were following every lead. And then, on Saturday, November 4th, just one day after the murder, police received a crucial piece of information. Someone reported that blood was seeping out from under the door of a closed shop in Vishal Complex on Custom Crossroads. The shop was a gas agency owned by a man named Ganesh Changa. Police immediately went to the location. They found Ganesh Changa and asked him about his shop. Ganesh told them the shop was closed and that his son Raju had the keys. Police tried to contact Raju, but he was not reachable. His phone was either turned off or he was not answering. The police could not wait. They broke the lock on the shop door and entered. Inside, they found the dark blue trolley bag. When they opened it, they discovered the body of Jyoti Gala. The discovery confirmed the worst fears of the investigation team. Jyoti Gala had been murdered. Her body had been hidden in the trolley bag in Ganesh Changa's office. The police now knew they were looking for Raju Changa. They needed to find him and arrest him before he could flee. Police located Raju and Radhika on Sunday, November 5th, 2023. The couple had not yet managed to leave the country. They were still in the area. Officers arrested both of them for the murder of Jyoti Gala. Raju was taken into custody and interrogated. During questioning, Raju confessed to everything. He admitted that he had strangled Jyoti Gala on the morning of November 3rd. He described how he had packed her body into the trolley bag and hidden it in his father's office. He explained his motive. He said he and Radhika were in love, but their families did not accept their relationship. They wanted to elope, but they were afraid their families would come looking for them. So Raju decided to fake Radhika's death. He needed a corpse to make the plan work. He searched for a woman who matched Radhika's height and build. He found Jyoti Gala. He murdered her so he could use her body to stage Radhika's death. He planned to burn the body beyond recognition and then tell police that Radhika had been killed. Once everyone believed Radhika was dead, he and Radhika would migrate to a foreign country and live together without interference from their families. Radhika was also arrested and questioned. Police determined that she was involved in the plan. She knew what Raju was going to do. She had participated in the earlier attempt to dig up bones from the graveyard in Samakiali. She was aware that Raju intended to kill someone to fake her death. She was complicit in the murder, even if she did not physically strangle Jethi Gala herself. Sagar Bagmar, the superintendent of police for Kutch East District, spoke to the media about the case. He explained the relationship between Raju and Radhika. He said they belonged to the same community and were distant relatives. He said their relationship was unacceptable to their families. He said the couple decided to elope, but they feared they would be caught. So, Raju thought of faking Radhika's death before migrating to a foreign country. Bagmar described the failed attempt to dig up bones from the graveyard. He explained that when that plan did not work, the couple decided to kill a woman instead. They planned to burn the body and tell police that Radhika had been killed. The case sent shockwaves through Bashau and the surrounding areas. The idea that a young man would murder an innocent elderly woman just to fake his girlfriend's death was almost incomprehensible. Jethi Gala had done nothing wrong. She had no connection to Raju or Radhika. She was simply in the wrong place, at the wrong time. She matched the physical description Raju was looking for, and so he killed her. She was collateral damage in a plan motivated by desperation and selfishness. The arrest of Raju and Radhika raised many questions. How could two young people, who claimed to be in love, plan and carry out such a cold-blooded murder? How could they value their own freedom and relationships so much that they were willing to kill a defenseless elderly woman? What kind of desperation or delusion drove them to believe this plan would work? And how did they think they could get away with it? Raju and Radhika were charged with murder. The case against them was strong. Raju had confessed. The body had been found in his father's office. CCTV footage showed Raju leaving Jethi Gala's house with the trolley bag. The forensic evidence, including the blood seeping from the shop, connected him to the crime. Radhika's involvement in the planning and her knowledge of the murder made her an accomplice. Both faced serious criminal charges that could result in life imprisonment or worse. The families of both Raju and Radhika were likely devastated. Ganesh Changa, Raju's father, had to deal with the fact that his son had used his business office to hide a murder victim's body. The entire family would face shame and social stigma in their community. Radhika's family would also have to live with the knowledge that their daughter was involved in such a horrific crime. But the greatest tragedy belonged to Jethi Gala's family. Her two sons in Mumbai had to learn that their elderly mother had been murdered by a stranger who needed a corpse for a bizarre plan to fake his girlfriend's death. Gala had lived alone, but she should have been safe in her own home. Instead, she became the victim of a crime that had nothing to do with her. She did not know Raju or Radhika. She had never done anything to harm them. She was simply a convenient target because she lived alone and matched a physical description. The case also highlighted several broader issues. First, it showed the extreme pressure some young people in India feel when their families disapprove of their relationships. While most couples in this situation either accept their family's wishes or elope quietly, Raju and Radhika took a path that was criminal and horrifying. Their desperation to be together, combined with their fear of being found by their families, led them to commit murder. This raises questions about how families handle disapproval of relationships and what kind of support systems exist for young couples facing such pressure. Second, the case demonstrated the vulnerability of elderly people who live alone. Jethi Gala's sons lived far away in Mumbai. She was isolated and had no immediate family nearby to protect her or check on her regularly. While it is common in India for elderly parents to live with or near their adult children, circumstances sometimes make this impossible. Gala's situation made her an easy target for someone looking for a vulnerable victim. Third, the case showed the importance of neighborhood vigilance and security cameras. The neighbor who noticed Gala was missing acted quickly to report it to police. The CCTV footage from another neighbor's camera provided crucial evidence that helped identify the suspect. Without these factors, it might have taken longer to discover what had happened to Gala. Fourth, the case revealed how quickly modern police work can solve crimes when investigators act decisively. The police formed 10 teams to work on the case. They scanned CCTV footage from across the town. They followed up on the report of blood seeping from the gas agency. They broke the lock and found the body within 2 days of the murder. They arrested Raju and Radhika before they could flee. This rapid response prevented the couple from escaping and potentially committing further crimes or harming others. The case received significant media attention in India. News outlets across the country reported on the shocking details of the murder. Many people expressed disbelief that such a thing could happen. The idea of killing someone to fake a girlfriend's death seemed like something from a crime novel or a film, not real life. But it was real, and it happened in Bachau in 2023. Legal experts commented that Raju and Radhika would face severe punishment if convicted. Murder in India carries a potential sentence of life imprisonment or the death penalty in the most extreme cases. Given the premeditated nature of the crime and the vulnerability of the victim, prosecutors would likely seek the maximum punishment allowed by law. The confession, the physical evidence, and the CCTV footage made the case against them extremely strong. Psychologists and social workers also weighed in on the case. Some pointed out that while family pressure regarding relationships is real and can be intense, the vast majority of young people facing such pressure do not resort to violence. They suggested that Raju might have had underlying psychological issues or a severely distorted moral compass that allowed him to justify murdering an innocent person. Others noted that Radhika's willingness to go along with the plan, even if she did not physically commit the murder, showed a troubling lack of empathy and moral judgment. Community leaders in Bachau and the wider Kutch district called for parents and families to be more understanding of their children's relationship choices. They argued that while families have the right to express their opinions, they should not create situations where young people feel so desperate that they consider extreme actions. However, other community members pushed back, saying that Raju and Radhika's crime was so extreme and unusual that it should not be used to make generalizations about family pressure or arranged marriages. They pointed out that millions of young people in India navigate family disapproval of their relationships every year without resorting to murder. The case also sparked discussions about the portrayal of love in Indian films and media. Some critics argued that movies and television shows often romanticize the idea of couples overcoming all obstacles to be together, sometimes portraying extreme actions as justified by love. They suggested that young people consuming such media might develop unrealistic or even dangerous ideas about what is acceptable in the name of love. However, others rejected this argument, saying that the overwhelming majority of people who watch such films do not go out and commit murder. They argued that Raju and Radhika's actions were the result of individual choices and moral failings, not media influence. As of the last available information, Raju Changa and Radhika Changa were in custody awaiting trial for the murder of Jethi Gala. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Raju had confessed. The body had been found in his father's office. CCTV footage and forensic evidence connected him to the crime. Radhika's involvement in the planning made her legally culpable as well. Both faced the prospect of spending the rest of their lives in prison. Jethi Gala's family was left to mourn the senseless loss of their mother. Her sons had to travel from Mumbai to identify her body and make arrangements for her funeral. They had to live with the knowledge that their mother's final moments were spent being strangled by a young man she had never met, a man who saw her not as a human being but as a tool to achieve his own selfish goals. The case serves as a reminder of how desperation and poor judgment can lead to unthinkable actions. Raju and Radhika wanted to be together. Their families disapproved. Instead of accepting the disapproval, having an honest conversation with their families, or simply eloping and dealing with the consequences, They chose a path that involved murder. They decided that their desire to be together without being followed justified taking the life of an innocent elderly woman. This was not a crime of passion or a moment of lost control. This was premeditated murder. Raju planned it. He searched for a victim. He identified Jethi Gala. He went to her home. He killed her. He hid her body. And he was preparing to burn it and use it to fake Radhika's death. All of this was calculated and deliberate. The case of Raju and Radhika Changa stands as one of the most disturbing crimes in recent Indian history. Not because of the method of killing, which was relatively straightforward strangulation, but because of the motive, the cold calculation behind the murder, the complete disregard for an innocent life, the willingness to kill a defenseless elderly woman simply because she fit a physical description, the plan to use her corpse as a prop in an elaborate deception. All of these factors combined to create a crime that shocked the nation and left people asking how two young people could be capable of such evil. What is certain is this. On November 3, 2023, 87-year-old Jethi Gala was murdered in her home in Bachau, Kutch district, Gujarat, India. She was strangled to death by 21-year-old Raju Changa. Raju packed her body in a dark blue trolley bag and hid it in his father's gas agency office. He planned to burn the body and claim it was his girlfriend, 22-year-old Radhika Changa, so the couple could elope to a foreign country without their families searching for them. A neighbor reported Gala missing. Police found CCTV footage showing Raju leaving her house with the trolley bag. Blood was discovered seeping from Ganesh Changa's office. Police broke in and found Gala's body. On November 5, 2023, police arrested both Raju and Radhika. Raju confessed to the murder and explained his plan to fake Radhika's death. Both were charged with murder and remain in custody. The case sparked nationwide discussion about family pressure, relationship disapproval, and the vulnerability of elderly people living alone. It remains one of the most shocking and disturbing murders in recent Indian history. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.